Ms. Fox?
Here.
Ms. Weems?
Here.
Ms. Heinrich?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
I am here. Dr. Blau?
I am also here.
All present and accounted for.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. We have the dream team of the Farmington High School IB program here with us this evening to lead us in the pledge. So come on up to the podium, and thank you so much for being willing to do this for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Yes.
I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda for the regular meeting Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, as presented.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Heinrich, supported by Mr. Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Announcements. Congratulations to the Hackbots. They had a very, very strong performance at the competition this past Saturday. Both Dr. Delgado and I were there. They had had some difficulties with a part of their robot a couple of weeks earlier, and they used what they learned from their experiences and mistakes at that first competition and made some significant changes to their robot, and it was much, much more successful. The Hackbots, I congratulate them, they came in second at this competition. And they also came away with the Impact Award, formerly known as the Chairman's Award, which is very, very prestigious. And I believe it allows them automatic participation in the state competition, state level competition. So congratulations to the Hackbots. And I also wanted to acknowledge that this is Women's History Month, and today happens to be National Rosie the Riveter Day. I wore my costume at school today. I decided it wouldn't be appropriate to wear it, but I wore the colors. So thank you to all of the women who came before us and all the women in our lives now for their continued strength, determination, and perseverance. So that is all I have for now. Have a report from the Student Roundtable. Go ahead, Dr. Delgado.
We do, and we have our Vice President, right? Yep, Pranav, if you want to come on up to the podium, and there's a microphone there, and you can give us an update on the Student Roundtable.
Hi, my name is Pranav Tamanidi. I'm the Vice President of SRT, and I'll be filling in for Amy Pan today. So our group focus for SRT was career development, what is the future of the student and how to impact it. And part of that group focus, we're doing the project of the career development and career fair. And for that, we decided to do one at around May, April, and it was like a bigger one. However, we're still doing that, but we're doing almost as a starter college fair, and we've decided on a May 20th date, almost in the morning on a Saturday. So we're not abandoning a huge college fair that would go into the high schools and such. We just pushed it back to the fall of next year so that we have more time to plan it out and make it a successful event. So in regards for the event we're doing, again, it's May 20th in the morning, and we decided Farmington High School cafeteria or a gym, and we're still deciding that, and we'll be finalizing it by the next meeting, and everything will be sent out to the families. And that's really what we're up to, and that's an update, and we'll be sure to update you more next month. I think that wraps it up. If there's any questions or anything.
Thank you so much. We're very excited about the career fair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pranav. All right. Next, we have recognitions.
Unfortunately, our percussion ensemble is unable to join us, so they apologize and their regrets, but they would very much like to come back to a future board meeting.
Okay. I didn't see any instruments, so I had a feeling that was probably the case. All right, let's move on then to items from the secretary, Mr. Walker.
Yes, the board has received communications regarding school grades and the International Baccalaureate PYP program exhibition. Communications are acknowledged and a response is provided when appropriate. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet, which is available on the FPS website.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Next, we have our legislative update. Mr. Rich?
Thank you. A lot of things happening in the Capitol right now. One of the big things that I've been talking about a lot lately is school lunches, school nutrition, school breakfast, however you want to talk about it. One thing I wanted to bring up is, as discussed previously, a task force was put together, including the Oakland County Intermediate School District, the Board of County Commissioners, as well as Congresswoman Haley Stevens' office, and a few of our partners at the state level, trying to figure out what the best way is to combat student hunger. So the first is, it was passed through the Oakland County Commission. So through that work, an email actually just recently went out to all of our reduced price families saying, in partnership with Oakland County through a matching grant, Farmington Public Schools is pleased to share that the reduced price meal charge was eliminated starting on March 15th, 2023, and will remain in effect through June 30th, 2023. Families who are paying the reduced meal price for breakfast and lunch will now pay $0. If you have any questions, they can contact Nutrition Services. And so this went out for 314 students in our district. Will now be receiving free breakfast and lunch through this effort. In the governor's budget is an item for free breakfast and lunch for all 1.5 million students in our state. I know that the Student Aid Committee in the House recently heard testimony on this this past Thursday. So we had testimony from Oakland Schools Nutrition. We had Lori Adkins, as well as Dr. Teresa Rich testifying there. And there was good responses from the legislators on that committee. I know that two of the members on that committee talked about how they had been on the free or reduced lunch program, had been through the lunch of shame, had been through trying to figure out how they were going to eat and trying to figure out how they can be a good student while being hungry. So we've got a lot of more work to do on that at the state level, but that is something that is well on its way.
Very, very exciting news. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Rich. All right, we are ready for our district updates. Dr. Delgado?
Thank you, Dr. Blau, and welcome to spring, everyone. So yesterday, Monday, March 20th, was the official first day of spring, and so we're looking forward to the kind of home stretch here, if you will, in the school year, but lots of incredible opportunities and joys and celebrations to come in the next 3.5 months of school. Dr. Blau already mentioned the Hackbots, just one additional piece for this. This is the first time in the team's history that they have managed to bring home the most prestigious award in FIRST Robotics, which is that FIRST Impact Award. And that's an award that's given to the team that demonstrates the most positive, measurable impact within their community. So it is the most prestigious award, and it also comes with a blue banner that they're proudly looking forward to displaying and hanging in their area, in their wonderful area that they have. So I did enjoy greatly the day at Cass Tech with our students and their problem solving and the camaraderie. So can't say it enough. Congratulations to them. They are on their way to Saginaw Valley for the state competition and then possibly back to Houston for the nationals. So we shall see. Another thing, there is so much going on right now and in the spring. I had the wonderful opportunity to attend STEAM's Multicultural Night celebration, which, like many things, all of these things are starting to come back now that there are less restrictions related to COVID, and so people are very, very excited in the community. So it was on Friday, on St. Patrick's Day, so we had actually an Irish dance group of young ladies who were able to demonstrate their talents, followed by many other dance groups and performances. Of course, we had the food booths, and these are done by parents in the district representing different cultures. And so it's just a celebration of who we are in the Farmington Hills community. So I really enjoyed that, and thank you to Principal Beasley and all of his staff and the parents and the PTA for putting that on. We also had a couple of musicals. So Dr. Kaufman and I were able to attend East's presentation of SpongeBob, the musical, which was fantastic. One of the things we love about just musicals in general, but certainly at middle school, is the ensemble approach. So there were easily 50 students in that musical, whether you were cast or crew or tech or lighting, that were able to participate. And at the high school level, you can see over 100 students who are involved in that. So any of these endeavors are healthy, they're fun activities, they're supervised activities, and so it's just another great way for students to connect. Before that, we had Warner put on Seussical Junior, the musical, and there are more spring concerts and events that are coming up this upcoming week as well. So even if you don't have kids in the school, you're welcome to come to our concerts. As I tell my wife sometimes, dinner and a show could mean Leo's and a middle school musical, but it's still a good time. So join us if you can. One of the things that I was asked to highlight, even though it's a little bit away, is the Tony Award-winning musical comedy called The Pajama Game by assistant director and producer Sue Cobb, longtime legend, the Cobbs here in the district. But they are going to be presenting this. The Pajama Game is April 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And they have asked if they would be able to come back like they did last year and give us, the Board of Education, and the public a preview of maybe one of their numbers, if not the opening number, on the April 18th Board of Education meeting. So we have graciously accepted that invitation. We'll look forward to seeing them. They'll be in dress rehearsal, so they should be in costume when they come to that. But that's called the Pajama Game. So more to come both at the middle school and the high school level. Additionally, I wanted to follow up on something I mentioned, I believe, at our last board meeting on the bond sale student program that we had. So as you're aware, we just finished the sale of the second series of the bond that our community supported. That has to do with our infrastructure in our schools. But we coupled that with a student program that really helped students understand what goes into selling a bond, starting with what is a bond and why do you have two series of a bond and how do you actually conduct this. And so there was an entire lesson plan that was organized. Big thanks to Mrs. Kaminsky and Mrs. Hendrickson. I think Mrs. Fifield was involved. There were a lot of other people who made this happen for our students. And when we look at the students, we had students from Algebra 2 classes, from our career technical education classes, our AP economics classes, who actually were able to learn from industry professionals about how to sell a bond and what happens. And so they were actually able to watch the live selling of our bonds from St. Louis, streamed live, with the professionals in the industry and ask questions. And the students had very inquisitive questions, very interested in how you get a career in this, and they really had a great understanding. And so when you hear us talk about things like authentic tasks, when you hear Mrs. Hendrickson say that over and over and over again, this is what authentic tasks are. And so finally we can answer the question for kids is, well, why do I need to know this? Why would I learn this? Well, they saw it in real time and got to talk to real industry professionals that we partner with. So we're very, very excited about that experience. I think we had about 40 students, maybe. I'm seeing Mrs. Hendrickson say yes. So very, very excited about all the effort, and we plan to continue those authentic tasks as often as we can with experiential learning throughout our district. So that's yet another celebration, but wait, there's more. Farmington High School, incredibly proud, and I had to look at this number twice when I heard this. They raised $10,000 in 1 week in Charity Week, all that they have donated to go to Operation Common Good, which Operation Common Good, as you know, is something that was started by the students, I believe at Warner, by the students, for students, to help with basic needs that a family has. They have boxes around the district for basic toiletries and needs, but then they also kind of donate to help but Farmington High School in their Charity Week designated the charity as Operation Common Good, and in 1 week, they raised $10,000. So kudos to all of you at Farmington High and all of the community members who donated to that. And finally, I'd like to share a story that I think just really exemplifies who we are as a Farmington Hills school community. So the Sunday before last, a little after 6 a.m., there was a fire that broke out in one of our apartment complexes. It was actually the apartment complex right adjacent to Warner Middle School. And so the police who were on the scene immediately called Principal Kelly Kaminsky. So that, first of all, the fact that the police officers have the principal's cell phone is indicative of our partnership with our law enforcement. So the police officer on the scene called Principal Kaminsky to ask if we at Warner Middle School could house about 20 families who were being displaced. There were a total of 6 apartments that went up in flames, and people were obviously rushed out and evacuated. The good news is nobody was injured. There were no fatalities or injuries. But it was very cold, and they asked if we could help partner. So of course we said yes. Principal Kaminsky shot up to the school. I live very close to Warner. I came up to the school, and we had a series of events that I just wanted to describe. So one of the first calls was to Jim Pierce, who's our Assistant Director of Facilities and Operations. We asked him to remotely turn on the heat and contact our custodian. So he did that. It was nice and warm for families to come on in out of the cold. And then our Mr. Schuyler, who is the custodian at Warner, happily came up. And just the positive energy he had, this is a Sunday morning, he came up, we were all making sure that people had what they needed to do, and it was nice and warm for them. The Red Cross, we mobilized with law enforcement. The Red Cross came up and they worked with our families. They prioritized those families who did not have any place to go. And we had several families who were in that situation with no family in the immediate area. And so they were prioritizing placing them in hotels around the area and coordinating that and taking information from all of the people who were displaced. In addition to that, the apartment management company came up. We brought coffee and water and breakfast items and had small gift bags for them with some toiletries and things that could help them. But it gets even better because the facility right next to the apartment complex is Anthology, which is a senior living center. And Anthology has a partnership with Warner Middle School where our students oftentimes will go over, they'll sing to the seniors at special events, they'll read books, they'll play games, they'll get to know them, and so it's a community, it's a partnership. So Executive Director Kelly Petty and her team from Anthology came over and they brought blankets for people to not only comfort them but keep them warm, and offered any other support that they could offer. And then in addition to that, our own community support services department that we've talked about that is housed right here in this building, in the 10 Mile building. Shanae Coleman came right over. Hattie Lagan communicated with us. They came up to the building to offer any additional support, including $100 gift cards sponsored by Operation Common Good to help families who might even need things as basic clothes to wear. I mean, some of their apartments were completely destroyed. And so all of these people came together, and it's just a perfect example of a community coming together. The deputy fire chief commented to me, he said, "I've never seen people mobilize so quickly and things run so smoothly." And the people who actually were displaced felt so comforted by all of the love and the support that we had. So it's a proud example of a community coming together in a time of need. And then just a final comment. I think that one of the last people who left the building, left Warner that day, was an elderly woman who came up and quoted Mr. Rogers to me, Fred Rogers. And she said that on Mr. Rogers' show, he said that when you're in trouble, look around your neighborhood for the helper people. And there were a lot of helper people that day. So I just, first and foremost, I want to thank Principal Kaminsky for her immediate action and wonderful efforts, and then our partnership with our fire department, our law enforcement, and all of the other community members. We took care of people that day, and it was needed. We took care of the community. So that is my superintendent update.
Oh, that's community.
That is
community. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I'll keep going since we have our district update. So next up, We are very, very excited to introduce the Farmington High School International Baccalaureate program. Our IB program did a service trip to the Dominican Republic, and so I'd invite them to come on up to the podium, which can't wait to hear about their trip and their experience. And we have our teacher, our IB coordinator, Mr. Kevin Meisner, and then our IB assessment coordinator, Ms. Kathleen Buraconic.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Barakonic, pardon me, and I organized the trip. This is our 8th or 9th year going. Yeah, we couldn't remember. 8th or 9th year going. With a 3-year break because of COVID, so it was our first year back. So Mr. Meisner and I set up a blank PowerPoint, and so I'm going to turn it over to the kids because they've added the photos and they want to tell you about their experience because it's an incredible experience. So I leave it to you guys. We're just here for some.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is what IB is. And so it's a rigorous college prep program for 11th and 12th graders, and it's offered at Farmington High School. And there's a lot of different things in IB in addition to just the normal tests and stuff. There's a lot of projects where you learn how to write entire reports and things like that. And there's a big component called CAST, which stands for Creativity, Activity, and Service. And so that's part of the core of IB is to learn about different experiences and things like that. And so the Dominican trip allowed for us to be able to get a lot of CAST experiences and to interact with different cultures. And that allowed us to connect with the IB profile learning traits like risk-taking, communicating, caring, and things like that.
And I'll just make a comment for our IT folks. I'm sure they'd like you to come a little closer to the microphone if you could, and also introduce yourself. I'm sure that we'd like to know who you are.
So my name is Dean Gibbons, and so I'm doing where we went. So we flew in from a layover in Miami to Santo Domingo, which is the capital, and then we had about 4-hour bus ride up to Cabarate, which is where Los Brazos was, where we spent almost the entirety of our week. And so we go down there mainly for a service trip where we work with the kids in the school, and we do lessons, play games with them. So that's the main reason we go down there. But we also do a lot of fun activities, and we get to experience the culture of a different country, one that we are entirely unfamiliar with when we go down there, which is always cool. And we also get to build new friendships. I know, at least me personally, I talked to a lot of people who I not met previously, which is definitely very cool. But we go down there mainly to serve the kids and get to interact with them and get to learn more about their culture.
So I'm sure you would appreciate knowing more specifically what we did while we were there. So we worked with the kids in the classrooms, which included us attending lectures with them or teaching them ourselves, and that usually included STEM projects. We also did labor projects, which included painting doors, building swing sets, and building gardens. We often played with them during recess, and one of the games that they liked to have me play was hopscotch, and they would make it difficult by placing objects in the way where I was supposed to jump. And then they would tell me that I had to pick it up and carry it all the way back. So they thought that was hilarious. We brought about 20 suitcases of school supplies and sports equipment for them, which the principal was very grateful for. And we also took tours around the city and around Los Brazos, and we learned about the cultural food and the dancing, so it was very amazing, and the kids were very nice. So here's some pictures of us painting doors. The kids did like to help, so that's a picture of Richie and one of the students painting a door on the very left. Above, on top, is the garden that we created. One of our students planted a pineapple there, so maybe there will be a pineapple tree the next time we grow, or the start of one. At the bottom, that's Bella, Sohan, and Pranav building a swing set. Pranav just gave a presentation to you. And to the right is Will Garcia coordinating the garden that was being built above and also cleaning out this the patch area where we were going to build the garden.
Hi, my name is Bella, and so one of the, in order, like, just additionally, we did classroom projects where we were working with the kids to expand their creativity, and so some of the things we did was we did, like, we had little cups, like little Dixie cups, and we had them shooting little pom-pom balls into the air, which they thought was, like, the best thing ever. They, like, had little wars, they were shooting them at each other, and it was super fun, and watching them play, and it was really cool. We also have, we had them make slime, and they had it all over their hands, and they made a mess, but it was really funny to watch them. And the third one is them making, like, robotics. They had, like, a robotics project that they had from the Hackbots, which was really cool because it took some of our culture and some of the things that we find are important and kind of share it with them. One of the things I loved about this was a lot of us don't speak Spanish fluently. Even I don't. I'm learning still. And so one of the things was, it was a really big challenge to kind of understand them, but there were things that we could do, such as this, where there wasn't a lot of verbal communication, but this activity helped us bond, and it was a really great experience to help them learn and also learn about them as well and their, like, culture as well. So this is another thing we did. So we did a lot of playing on the playground. They love to kind of run around. They would grab your hand and pull you in a different direction. You could be talking to another kid and they'd be like, oh, come over here. So we did a lot of playing, and there were a lot of, there's a lot of motion, and so some of the things we did was, like, we had, like, baseball games and all this fun stuff, and, like, a lot of the people, like, a lot of our group had so much fun with them, and that was really cool to watch. So here's some additional photos. These are all really cool. So the one on the top is the game we played. It's called The Boat and Sinking. That's how you translate it. So essentially we're in a big circle, and we had the person in the middle would call out, like, different actions that you had to do, and we all had to like work together. And so we'd have to pick each other up and, like, get each other on our backs. It was really fun, and it was crazy. So I loved that. I forgot to introduce myself earlier, but I'm Miriam, and I'm a senior. Okay, so some of the fun things that we did was while we were there was learning about the Dominican culture and history. And so on our first day there, we took a tour of the capital of Santo Domingo, and that was really interesting to be able to hear about how it played such a role in the start of the United States and other countries in that area, and that was really interesting. And then when we were in Los Brazos, we were able to learn about their culture, and we took a tour around their community and learned about different activities and things that they like to do in their daily lives. And something else that we did, which was really fun, was we had like mini dance lessons where we learned the bachata, which is a type of dance that is very famous in the Dominican. And so we were able to explore their culture. And also, while we were there, the kids were preparing for a big festival parade where they celebrate their culture. And so it was really fun to be able to watch them and see how excited they are about their culture, and they were able to share that with us.
Okay, so through the donations that we brought, you can see all the suitcases. We brought around 20 suitcases full of school and office supplies, playground equipment, and sports equipment. This was my CAST project for IB, so it included me going around my neighborhood and collecting all the suitcases and posting forums on Facebook and getting my neighbors to cooperate and donate items. And we actually got a computer donated, which was fantastic. When we first offered it to the principal, she thought she wanted us to charge it for, like, she thought we wanted her to charge it for us. But when we told her it was actually for the school, she was ecstatic. So seeing the kids' faces when they saw all the school supplies and the toys and the games that we brought them was just so heartwarming. And if I could go again next year, I will. So yes, it was very fun.
And on our last full day there, we had a celebration day where we celebrated all the work that we've done. And we went to the 2 beaches in the area, and it was really fun to just be a tourist for a day as well. And it was also really interesting because there was a lot of people that were selling things like handmade bracelets and things like that. And so that was really fun to be able to see what kind of jewelry and things like that they have that you wouldn't necessarily see here. So it was just another opportunity to learn about their culture as well.
All right, so kind of like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of, this is like a video of the shooting game where we had like the cups and the pom-poms, and they had like a whole war. So they had like 2 separate teams, and they shot the little pom-poms at each other. It was chaotic. Yeah, I think so. Oh, is it? Oh, never mind. Let's go back. Okay. Well, you'll have to imagine all the fun. Make sure.
The last video was the sinking ship.
All right. Yeah, I guess we can't. Oh, maybe.
There we go.
Look at these 2.
So let me just follow up a little bit. We took 19 students with us. Mr. Meisner and I were the chaperones. It was 6 nights. It was exhausting. We spent 3 full days at the school. We are there for service. We do go out to dinner at night. We do try to have little things at night that are fun for them. Friday, like they said, the celebration day is a fun day that they go to the beach, because how can you be in the Dominican and not stop by the beach? It's a fantastic experience. I mean, our kids, our 17, 18-year-old kids are crying when we're leaving. I'm going to cry now. It's a fantastic experience to see. This school is very underserved. It's one of the most underserved schools in the Dominican. We go through a company called the Dream Project, and there's dream schools, and they are very well cared for. This is not a dream school. It is just, they are just so, they just don't have the funds. So we love going there. We've been going there for 8 years. And it's, our kids, the first thing that our kids say after day 1 is, how come they're so happy? They don't have anything. And it's like, yay, we won, right? They're happy. They're clean. They're happy. They just scream and jump up and down when our kids come up the hill to day 1. They just know that our kids are full of love and want to play and be with them. And it's truly a great experience. Mr. Meese, did you have anything else to add?
So I speak no Spanish, so this is always a challenge for me to go. But my favorite moment, I think Quinn was talking about it, we were opening up the suitcases, and there was a pile of baseball gloves and bats and stuff, and the kids were all staring, and one kid just went, "Ay, mama," when he saw it. And, like, I speak that language, so it was just, the trip's amazing. Great.
Thank you for allowing us to share it with you. Yeah, questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Smith.
You said that you take the luggages, and the students said that they gather everything through their neighbors. My question is, number 1, when do you need the donation? Number 2, how big are the suitcases? Because I know it's something that you got to go through with that. And when could you get the information to me so that I can get a suitcase and have the supplies ready for you next year.
Thank you, that's very generous. We ask for suitcase, just plain suitcase donations. We start asking for those in the fall of families, and people are very generous of getting us their old suitcases. And then usually a student will do the CAST project as collecting what we need. And we had a suggestion from one of our families, maybe we should start doing the school supplies in the fall when school supplies are on sale. So that might be a different take we have on it. We usually start in January, just try to get through the holidays and whatnot, and it just seems like a good time in January. But we'll probably start earlier. We are in contact, when we used to go, we never were in contact with the school, but now I have the principal's cell phone number. I don't speak any Spanish, so it's going to be interesting, but we want to know what she needs. What do you need? I mean, she was elated with what we brought. Just anything from paper to pencils and colored pencils and crayons and the simple things. And so we're going to find out what she needs.
And she needs a quantity of a certain amount?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and then I get that to you?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
We keep the trip very affordable. I mean, we don't go through a company. We do everything ourselves. We do all the checking prices and scheduling and all that. We do it ourselves to keep the price. We try to keep it around $2,000 for 6 nights, including airfare, gratuities, 3 meals a day. Yeah, it's a good value.
Thank you.
The one thing we do have to fundraise, though, is we have to pay to take the luggage down, so
Yeah, we do.
that we can always use help with. We pay $30 to $35 a bag to take those down.
Yeah, I just want to applaud the whole group, including the advisors who are doing the coordinating. I've been on several overnight trips, never for 6 nights. So
In a
thank
third
you.
world country.
Oh my gosh, yeah, thank you, seriously. I'm just really incredibly happy that you all had the opportunity to do something like that. I'm sure that it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and for those of you who get to go again, that is truly remarkable. Please tell your peers. I want to see more people take advantage of this opportunity.
I think they have been sharing the experience.
Yeah.
So it is life-changing. So
Yep.
thank you for allowing us to go. We appreciate you.
Yes.
If I could just share a couple things. So it's really important, especially when we visit developing countries, that we understand how we can not only support them, but what we can learn from them. And so that's a big benefit of trips like these. So it's called a service trip, but really the service is reciprocal. And so I really appreciate, if it weren't for the teachers who lead this opportunity and chaperone, these experiences don't happen for students. And so thank you to our staff for doing that. So I promised the students I wouldn't speak Spanish to you, but the game, Barco Hundiéndose, so the sinking ship, is a wonderful game. So I'm sure you picked up some words. But my question for you is in English. Knowing the International Baccalaureate, one of the huge tenets of the International Baccalaureate is that you develop what we call an international mindedness. So can any of you share, after having gone through this trip, how you enhanced your international mindedness from this trip?
This doesn't exactly relate to Spanish, but in math, we learn European symbols instead of American symbols. So we have to write our X's in different ways, like the 2 C's instead of the 2 lines across. And I think it's kind of interesting. So it was a bit hard to get a hang of at first, but now it's really easy, and I can make connections between symbols that I normally wouldn't know what they mean, like on European math websites. But yeah, it's really great. So.
And a side note, Quinn and I communicate often because she lets me know when there's a snow day coming and gives me very elaborate graphs with all the meteorologist data. So thank you, Quinn, for that.
And then also relating to the trip, I think it's one thing to learn in a classroom and to learn about different cultures, but I think being able to actually go on the trip just lets you see firsthand. It's not just learning about history and that type of the culture, but you're seeing their habits. Like when we went and took a tour around the city, we were able to see different buildings and different, like, something that's big there, for example, is like lottery tickets, and that's not something we would have normally like learned in school, but you could see like a lot of places like that, and it's interesting to see, oh, like this is something that these people like to do, like for fun and things like that. So it's interesting, like you wouldn't have learned that like in the classroom, but going on the trip is just an interesting way to learn more about like their day-to-day life and not just about like the overall like history.
Excellent. Very well said. Well, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
Yeah, I just,
I think one of the most important things that I learned was how to be open-minded when you go into a culture with your own personal opinions. And so I came in thinking like, how are these kids going to respond? And I saw how they responded, and they were so excited and happy to see us, and it just blew me away. And so I think from then I was way more open-minded about how little they have and how, like, guess how privileged I am. And so from then on, I really wanted to make sure that they understood that, like, how important it was that we were there for them, and wanted them to feel just as loved as we did by them.
Thank you.
Ms. Heinrich, go ahead.
yeah, you just can't hear too many times what a wonderful program this is. And, you know, we talk about authentic tasks in the district, but just the opportunity for a group of students to experience learning, seeing another school in another country as far as going into the classroom and seeing the educational systems and, you know, the culture and the language and just learning new experiences. It's just wonderful. As far as you had 19 students go, and what percentage is that of the IB program as far as the students, as far as this opportunity?
We invite IB, DP students first, and then we see, because we can only take so many, and then we open it up to our course students and our career students, and then we open it up to the whole school. So of the 19 students, 18 were IB, DP, and one was a course candidate. A mixture of sophomores, juniors, and seniors. We don't take freshmen.
And what time of year do you go on the trip?
You go.
Mid-winter break, February break.
Oh, February break,
Yeah.
okay.
You don't want to miss any school.
That's very thoughtful of you. So you just recently returned then? Wow. What a powerful experience. Thank you so much for sharing all that you learned and the joy of the children with us. And for giving of your time and your money and efforts to bring some joy to them. Thank you so much.
And moving along, next up with our district updates is increasing accessibility for all students through technology. So I see Dr. Moore here, but I see Amy Garmasick moving to the podium. So Amy, you can take it away and talk to us about this district update.
Thank you.
And Amy is our assistive technology specialist.
Don't see it down here. This is not the right one. I'm sorry, it's not listed down here. It's neither of
You don't have it there?
Nope.
Well, it's not the puberty workshop.
Nope.
So
Nope. Hard pass. Hard pass.
that's later.
Sorry.
One of these your card. This one?
That one.
There you go. You are welcome.
Okay.
Didn't know I had to look on the home screen. Sorry.
Fantastic. Amy, take it away.
I'm Amy Garmasick. I'm the Assistive Technology Specialist for the district. I've been in this role for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was a resource room teacher at Farmington High School. And prior to that, I was a student here at Farmington. So I've been here a while. But I wanted to share an update with you all about what we are doing as a district in terms of digital accessibility. COVID has taught us a lot of things about technology and that it can do a lot for us, but just having it doesn't make it accessible or make it make everything available to all kids. So digital accessibility is making content and technology devices accessible for all of our students, including those with disabilities. What we have found when designing almost everything, including wheelchair ramps and things like that, but when we design for a disability first, we often stumble upon solutions that are not only inclusive, but often better than what we designed for the original norm. And so we all take advantage of wheelchair ramps and elevators and things like that, but everything that was built in terms of technology was also built out of a necessity for someone that needed access. So all those fancy features on your cell phones are all accessibility features first, but now we all use them interchangeably. So as a district, we now have Chromebooks accessible to all of our students. We're one-to-one, and those Chromebooks themselves have features built into them that are accessibility features available to every student, just like your cell phones and personal devices all have those features as well. We have now purchased Read and Write for Google Chrome, which is an extension to enhance the Chrome browser for students. And we've also worked on building templates around Canvas for equitable access for all of our students. So our Chromebooks that we have, they all have accessibility features built into them, things like zoom magnifiers, large mouse cursor. We can invert the colors. The students love to do this. There's ability for live captions. So if someone is speaking, they can have live captions running and it's on their screen. And these are all things that are built by Google themselves, but they are available on these devices. And we have pinned this accessibility feature menu to each student's device so that it's readily available when any student might need it. In terms of the Read to Write, which is a Google Chrome extension, and an extension just enhances the way the browser works. It is a toolbar for students that helps supports reading, writing, and research. And so you'll see at the bottom of the screen there's a long gray toolbar with a bunch of icons, and that is the toolbar that pops up anywhere in the web that students are using their computer. It works in Google Docs, Google Slides, it works in learning management systems across all web environments that they are accessing. And these are the text-to-speech, talk and type, dictionary, and the word prediction are the tools that I have gone around and highlighted to our students as features that they can help when they are doing reading and writing tasks. The dictionary is not only just a dictionary, it's also a picture dictionary. So as you'll see in the picture on the screen, a student highlighted a word and provided not only a definition, but also pictures to help with that visual representation. And it has a translator tool for translating single words at a time. So if a student has another language they understand, they can help build that language between the two, or build the connection between the two languages that they understand. We onboarded the Read-Write toolbar in October as a full district license. Prior to that, we had 150 licenses from our special ed department that was reserved for 150 select students that needed specialized accommodations. What I found over the years is that many students I showed these tools to loved them in a one-on-one setting or in a small group setting, but when they went back to the general classroom, other students didn't have these same tools. They weren't really willing to share or do that in their main classroom. So by providing this tool for all of our students, we've had an increase in all students using it, but also the students that really do need to use it. So we began building some professional learning on our instructional tech website for teachers, resources, things like that. I worked with different areas of the district, and we highlighted fourth grade based on NWA reading scores to target as our audience to launch. So I have gone to every fourth grade classroom in January and February and provided a 30-minute tech lesson on how to utilize some of these tools. And the teachers were there. The students had a great time. We enjoyed it. Like I said, I currently have all fourth grade students, and FPF has seen this. All of the teachers have seen it. All of our building technology leads, so we have a tech lead in every building, a teacher lead, have also been trained in this. Our elementary resource room staff and other special ed staff have also been trained in how to use it and support students in using it. So overall, right now, we have over about 60 over 60 staff members trained across the district. I've also, now that I've done 4th grade, I'm starting to get lots of phone calls and emails about, can you come do 3rd? How about 5th? You know, reaching out. I just had middle school reach out today. So I am going in all directions, trying to share these tools. And one of the best things a 6th grade teacher shared with me is she said, you showed it to my class, and that week, or ever since then, they come in every week with something new they found and want to show me how to use and how it helps them with their work. When we move into the learning management system, we have, as a district, we have Canvas, and this is our online classroom. We onboarded this quickly for COVID, but it's a learning tool, not just for remote learning. It's a classroom tool. Many universities utilize it as well. What we have found with Canvas is that we need to be a little bit better in how we structure our courses and make them more consistent for all students across all their environments. So they have 6 physical classrooms that they walk into every day at the secondary level. They also have 6 digital classrooms now that they encounter. And when one teacher has files in this place or files over here and does it this way, or there's different directions. It's a lot on students to remember and work through. And so as a technology team, we have developed a template that we are piloting at the moment. So all North Farmington students, they're building based to kind of build school community and their color, use the unique logos and school colors. But the buttons at the bottom across the screen where students can find course resources, information, the learning modules, and if absent information, those stay the same across the environment no matter what school you're at. We have had over 50 teachers sign up to pilot this for us, to take advantage of this option, to look at this template and provide feedback. Where can we do better in terms of making it easy for all of our teachers to use and making it easy for all of our students to use. And so we've had, and a wide array of teachers across all the disciplines sign up as well. And we are in the process of gaining their feedback on how that template is going. And so part of that, we will have the feedback, we'll review it, and we're going to finalize what our template is going to look like. And it will be pushed out into the Canvas courses when they load prior to school starting. So every teacher's Canvas course will be preloaded with this homepage that is they're all the same. Teachers have some room to make some edits and personalize it, but from there, it should provide students a consistent learning environment across all their digital platforms. And so we hope to launch that in the fall this year. In terms of next steps, we're just working to provide digital accessibility training to all of our new staff that's embedded in all of our technology trainings, work on some common digital accessibility issues so that we're designing with everyone in mind, and continuing to train students in using the read-write toolbar. So, thank you.
Hello there.
Hi.
Are you saying that regular students, all students are able to get these resources? Because we do know that even with students who have an IEP, there are other students out there who need these additional resources.
Yes.
I commend you for it. Thank you.
And that's what's been great about this year is being able to afford and bring these toolbars and these tools to all of our students, because it's not always just the students with identified needs that need to use them. I use text-to-speech on my phone all the time. I don't have an identified need to have it, but I do it because it makes my workflow easier sometimes. So, yep.
Just as an addition, so first of all, thank you for not only all the training of all those 4th graders, and I'm sure you'll do many, many others, but just in addition, the district just completed a comprehensive review of our website for accessibility to visually impaired individuals. And so we actually worked with an outside company to really identify things like color patterns that we would not have normally recognized that would be challenging for the visually impaired. So we have just completed that process and revamped the entire website for accessibility to not only our students,
myself. We're representing middle school, high school, and another high school. And Emily was last year, right? She was in elementary school. So it's kind of nice to have presenters or representatives, right, from different grade levels.
So we had two objectives this school year. The first objective, we want to look at adult behaviors in our system and make sure that our adult behaviors as staff members support a culture for equity and innovation. What makes an FPS teacher great, even looking at that profile that we have for students that we expect students to really pursue. We also want to make sure that staff members pursue that as well. And then our second objective was to align our PD as a district so that we were building toward innovation and equity with how our staff was working with students and even how they were preparing lessons and even training. And one of the things that we accomplished this year, we talked about what a definition of equity and innovation should be so that we all have a very similar definition and not one person thinks it's this, another person thinks it's that. So we aligned that definition with this work. One of the best parts was having the student panel join us. Students were very honest, very, very honest, but it was very good because it gave us a focus as to what their issues were and what challenges they had and what they needed from the staff. And then one of our last meetings, we had FPS staff come in, and not just teachers, paraprofessionals, counselors, hall monitors, that gave really honest feedback to us. So it worked out very well, and we've been collaborating with Mr. Paddock and HR, and we'll talk more about that as well.
I guess we wanted to include this one and the next slide just to remind and review, and we just see that as a district, we have a definition of educational equity. And I am looking through this. I'm not going to read this right now because we can read, but I still want to focus on maybe specific terms or specific phrases because it's coming from National Equity Project, but at the same time, it kind of connects and we can see commonalities, and that's why I think this is a very nice definition because we're looking at success. We can see the word success. We see social and cultural factor. We're looking at eliminating, right, inequitable practices and looking for specifically equity, inclusion, and I think it's very nicely connects with what we all listened to Dr. Muhammad, right, and she was talking about specifically like authenticity, right, noticing things and positioning, so how we position ourselves, right, before we see positioning something for our students. So I think this definition is very important and it's kind of shorter too because it gives us just to the point. And the next slide we're looking at, because we are Committee for Equity Innovation, this is our innovation definition, and I think we would say our contribution is here too, so we feel that's important talk about innovation. And when we were speaking to students, community members, staff members in the district, so we heard different definition of innovation because you come from different backgrounds, you're looking at things from different perspectives, and innovation can be different to a lot of people. So I think here we're looking at differently, like looking at things differently, doing things differently. But again, at the same time, you're still focusing on supporting students, supporting the learning, right? Increasing opportunities for things, not only specifically for students, but as well as for staff members, for creativity, critical thinking. One thing that I would say connects me to this, and I'll say this is super important, looking differently. During one of our meetings, a kindergarten teacher shared with us that critical thinking, and not critical thinking, risk-taking as an innovative piece sometimes could be a piece where you fear that you might not be supported, you're afraid to fail, to make a mistake, right, when you're taking a risk. And for them, it was very difficult when you have to follow the curriculum and you're thinking there could be some activity or a certain event or something you have to really maybe step away from the curriculum, but she felt there's no time and she felt that risk-taking would not be a good thing at that moment. So this is nice to know that if innovation and risk-taking kind of go together, and you'll see more of that today, I think it would be great to kind of focus on that and keep it going and doing for teachers, for educators in the district, and as well as for the students, to keep them in the center. The next slide, we wanted to include a couple quotes, and we found them pretty powerful. We invited, as Mr. O'Brien mentioned, invited a lot of staff members to join us to talk about their experience when we were focusing on characteristics, qualities, right, adjectives, or description of FPS staff members. Some people would love to join us, but they were not able to, and we said, why don't you email us, right? Why don't you give us something in writing so we can still keep it as your input, and I think it can make powerful impact. So the first one, I think I would love to read. It's shorter, it's a little bit easier, right? But it's an excellent FPS staff member, would ideally be respectful, culturally competent, empathetic, responsible, values others, open to growth, and values school culture for students and staff alike. So I think it's important, and it catches, I mean, it's not just one or two, but it's well written, and it gives us that kind of well-rounded, right, kind of number of characteristics here. The one in blue, teachers who no longer love their career choice as a lifelong learner or teacher should pursue a different field. Students don't care what you know until you know how you feel about them. And we talk about this building relationship with students, right? Creating this supportive environment. And it came up a lot. And when we talked to the students last year, what we did, we invited to have a conversation during IST with students whose GPA was under 2.0. So strategically, we wanted to hear them first. And it came a lot that if a teacher who is teaching me doesn't have a relationship with me and doesn't understand what's happening, let's say, with me, why I am failing, that it's not going to be successful kind of relationship here. So this is one example of that. And the last one, the last quote here, you can see that it says, I believe there needs to be a strengthening of parent, district, teachers, staff triangle around the student. So it has to be a relationship. It has to be collaboration. And the student is in the center, but we have to work together to make it happen, right? To have our students a successful center. The next slide, couple examples of our brainstorming. We want it to be colorful. We want it to be using technology because all our meetings, Zoom meetings, right? So what we did is we brought examples. We kind of put together many different features, adjectives, whatever descriptions, right? The question was, what makes an amazing FPS staff member? And we just brainstormed, said, this is your time, think about it, give some examples. And I like that it's not just coming adjectives like kind, humble, but it's a little bit more descriptive. You can see some of them. The following slide, this was during our last meeting. What we're trying to do is we were trying to get all these amazing ideas and put them, categorize them. They don't have names yet, right, those categories, but you can see that we're kind of trying to have them together, whether it's a skill, right, teachers have to have, maybe related to education, maybe related to professional experience. Then we're looking at their maybe qualities as a person, maybe empathetic, kind, loving. Then we're looking at more professional skills, maybe more cognitive skills. So we kind of put them together, still work in progress. That's what we have, which is work in progress, and we're working on trying to finalize. And as Mr. Bryan mentioned, we're working with Mr. Paddock here, so we're trying to give him or to the HR department as much information as we can, and hopefully this is colorful information where it's going to be much easier and more successful to get through and put together something where we can see some common threads, maybe create other categories, put all these attributes together to create that final piece, which is going to be a profile of FPS staff member or whatever the name is going to be. I know it's still working, but hopefully successful work.
That's a good transition. So as she mentioned, we have one more meeting in April, and then our final product really is to team up with Mr. Paddock and his team to develop really a profile of an FPS staff member. So when we came up with the profile of a lifelong learner, Dr. Coffin uses the expression that it is our promise to the community. This is what we are trying to achieve with our students. And so we want to have that same promise with our staff members, for our students and for our parents, that this is a profile of what an FPS staff member will be. So thank you for your time, and we appreciate you giving us your attention.
Ms. Smith?
You said you had a lot of feedback and honest feedback from staff and students. Are you willing to share what that feedback was?
So actually, I'm going to go back, Ms. Smith, if you don't mind, so these quotes here, these actually are directly from students who attended. And basically, to summarize it, there were probably 6 students, I think, at that time on the Zoom call with us. They were basically saying that they felt there was a lack of a connection, especially after COVID, with teachers. So they were hoping that, yes, their teachers know the subject very well, but they wanted to have a teacher that they felt cared about them. And some of the students felt that the teachers cared about the subject, but not them as much.
And what about your
Staff really were targeting us looking at creating a diverse population. So when it comes to our teaching staff and our instructional staff. So that was a big discussion there and ways that we could do it together, how we could have a staff that mirrored our student population.
And kind of to add to this question as well, because we were discussing saying with searching for talented staff members, right? We're looking for maybe to fill some missing positions, but we have to find those staff members who will be the best. Especially I just went to a conference, which is Michigan Reading Association conference, and we had a very interesting presentation on that. We only have overall in this nation 1% of teachers who are African American males. And where do we get them? Do we hire just anyone, or we hire the best? That's the question for us to determine those attributes and qualities. I think would be super important.
Ms. Fox?
Yeah, I have a quick question. The statement that you just showed, I believe there needs to be a strengthening of the parent and district teacher staff triangle around the students. Is there an action item that you are aligning to that particular statement?
So our team, no. As we are wrapping up our process, we will be basically done in April, and we're going to transition to that profile. But the strategic planning team, as it evolves, is going to look at different ways to do this. So our team, no, but as a district, yes, we'll be doing it in a different way.
Okay.
Also, when we're talking about parents, district, teachers, staff, sometimes we can look into collaboration with other committees, which would be next year kind of, and set up the goals, like what areas we have developed or we have information, and what areas we need more information to focus maybe on this kind of triangle here. Yes, because it could be, I think, other options open, and we saw that there's still commonalities among all these other committees as well, and it would be nice to kind of get together and start planning for the next year as well.
Yeah, it's an excellent statement. I'd like to see it come to pass.
Ms. Heinrich and then Dr. Del.
Yeah, I think my question is similar to Ms. Fox's. It's just once you develop this profile of the ideal staff, then how are you going to, what support is that to have your staff live this and develop into this? Because it's one thing to say, but what's the action, or whose job is that, or where are you going with this?
I'm going to turn over to Dr. Coffin, but I'll just add, that's all of our jobs. It will be how we look at hiring as an administrator, and it will be how we design our PD. But Dr. Coffin?
Yeah, so with all of these committees, when they wrap up their goals, they bring those to cabinet, and then we determine where they fit within the organization. So when we think about the profile of a staff member, that will sit with HR and talent development and Mr. Paddock's office. But the strategic planning process just gives access to a larger group and more voice, including students, parents, community members, teachers. So it isn't about doing this and saying, okay, we have this. It's really about where does it live within the organization, and that's determined by our cabinet, in our cabinet conversations.
And so how are you going to measure that this is being lived in the district?
So it's very similar of how we've rolled out our profile of a lifelong learner. We'll do the same thing. Again, it's a great tool to recruit and retain staff who, in the Farmington district. I think with us having this profile, going out and looking for talent, it's nice. People enjoy seeing that, and if they can see this as an organization they want to be a part of, and separates us from the rest of the pack, so to speak, when we think about education. It also is embedded in our professional development that we do with our staff across the district. So it will just become an embedded part, just like the profile for the lifelong learner. Thank you.
I just wanted to share two things. So number one, much of our work in the district is complementary of each other and it kind of overlaps. I've shared several times before that we have 3 active directors working together. You see one of them in our director of community support services in Christopher O'Brien. We have Mr. Smith, our director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then Ms. Hendrickson, our director of curriculum instruction and assessment. All of those folks are working with their respective departments to live into this vision. So to get to your questions, both Ms. Fox and Ms. Heinrich, Mr. Smith and I have had frequent meetings about the equity audit that was done in this school district. And he has this year gone to every single school, is meeting with every single principal and looking through the lens of their respective building-based information, the audit results of the equity audit. And they, by the end of this year, he's presenting action plans for each of the schools that they will actually address the equity audit results that they can then live into. And those are kind of the metrics that he'll monitor, that I'll monitor, that will work together as we not only try to raise the entire district for a more equitable and innovative culture, but very specifically action plans tailored to the feedback we received from the equity audit. So that,
For each school.
for each school, as well as district-wide. And the second thing I'll say is, you know, the title of this committee is creating a culture for equity and innovation. And part of the way you create culture is by prioritizing the things that, that you want people to live into. We started this very school year with the wonderful Dr. Goldie Mohammed, who gave a presentation to our entire leadership team and then to our entire staff she calls it basically, her book is called Cultivating Genius, but it's about a genius framework. And so it's about having students themselves, as well as their teachers, realize that there is genius in every child. And so her framework, what's beautiful about it is it has 5 pieces. You can plug in any lesson, whether it's a history lesson, a Spanish lesson, it could be an equity lesson, it could be an anti-bullying lesson, it doesn't matter. But her framework talks about identity, so students seeing themselves in everything that they're studying, skill development, when we talk about equity, every single child in that classroom must develop that skill. No negotiation. You don't move forward until you develop that skill. The third thing is intellectualism. Do they see themselves as future scientists, for example? Do they see themselves as future mathematicians or entrepreneurs? And so how do we cultivate that in our people, in our young people? That is the idea of cultivating equity, where every child in that classroom feels that way. The fourth goal is criticality. Are we teaching even our young ones how to read critically? How not to just believe everything that's told to them, but how to articulate and have discourse and debate. And then finally, and the most important one that Dr. Muhammad is so excited about is joy. Is there joy in everything that they do? And so when we think about how do you create a culture that values equity and values innovation, there are 2 things. It's prioritizing this framework of equity and all of these aspects supporting each other, and then also really holding people accountable to it as you move forward as an organization. And so we're very excited about the work and specifically this committee and how it complements a lot of the work that we're doing as well.
I see a lot of overlap between the work that you're doing and the work that the other strategic planning committees are doing that we're serving on. It's really exciting to see how the threads are beginning to weave a tapestry together that support the kind of learning environment and culture that we have long sought for our students and our teachers. And, you know, the joy is part of our profile. And really not everything on social media is true.
That it is not.
Criticality. So it's just really, really exciting to see all of these pieces coming together, from Dr. Goldie Mohammed's presentation at the beginning of the year to the strategic planning work and the different presentations that we heard this evening from staff, from students. It's really, really incredible.
And I guess I would just say the thread throughout all of these conversations is that every single one involves student voice. And we have been really committed to asking our students, how do you feel? We actually had a presentation at our leadership team meeting last Thursday with all 60 of our administrators from Carla Chanel, who's from the Anti-Defamation League and the No Place for Hate program. And she said something that was really quite profound, I thought, is she said, when you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we, adults, can define whether or not we have a diverse community. We can say, look at all the religions and languages and cultures. We have a diverse community. We could talk about equity and say, yes, we are committed to equity because we try to make sure that every child has what he or she needs. But we, as adults, don't get to define whether or not we're inclusive. We don't get to say that. The students get to say that. So the people who work in our schools, the adults who work in our schools, get to say that, whether they feel included or not. We don't get to define that. And so, that I thought that was really profound, and we had a conversation at our leadership team about how we live into all of these wonderfully ambitious goals. So we're doing the right work, and we're moving down the field. So we appreciate all of your support in the strategic planning update tonight.
And we have included student voice in every aspect of this process, from the profile to the strategic planning committees to the vision and mission work that we're doing. So,
Student roundtable.
Student roundtable.
DEI listening tours. There's quite a bit of student voice in our district.
Coffee and conversation. Yeah.
Cookies and
Cookies, sorry. No coffee for the kindergarten. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And those are the district updates for the evening.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Delgado.
You're welcome.
Next, we have reports from our board committees. We have two this evening. First, Ms. Weems, the Finance and Facilities Committee.
Sure. The Finance and Facilities Committee met on March 15th. Mrs. Heinrich and I were present, along with members of the administration, who walked us through three areas. The first was a nutrition services equipment proposed purchase, which we'll hear about tonight, as both a discussion item and an action item because of the nature of the purchase and the desire to want to get started over the summer. The action is being brought to us now and being asked for action in the same meeting. So they're recommending purchasing new serving lines for Farmington STEAM Academy. Obviously, Farmington STEAM Academy was previously a middle school, and so the cafeteria is set up more for serving middle schoolers as opposed to elementary school students. So the proposal is to purchase some new equipment that will make the lunch lines a bit more efficient. And so the cost is $175,000. Again, if approved by the board, this will take place over the summer, and the purchase of the serving line will be paid out through the Nutrition Services Fund. The second item that we talked about was video surveillance purchase. We had this conversation at our last meeting, and the board was overall supportive of the video surveillance equipment itself, but has some questions about the amount of time that film will be retained or stored in the cloud. So the district was asked to go back and do some work to kind of think through that. Again, as a reminder, the security cameras are for 12 facilities. It's a new video management system that can also integrate into existing cameras and intercoms and cabling and services, and also has a connection to our police department. So the concern or the discussion that we had at our last meeting was whether it was appropriate to store for 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. So while 30 days was generally seen as the standard based off of the vendor and the district's recommendations, there are some that view that a longer period of time, including law enforcement, might be better. So we had that discussion. Ultimately, the Finance Committee heard from the district and the project team and responded to several of the questions that were posed by the board, including how much is the cost and what was standard across Oakland County. A lot of really good discussion. On the one hand, there's tremendous respect for erring on the side of caution and listening to the opinions of police officers and others who would generally want more rather than less. There was also a lot of thought about funding and risk and reward. The district reached out to 30 different districts across the area. They weren't able to connect with all of them, but a good number of them, and all of them are currently using 30 days. They also gave us the price in the event the district wanted to increase the number of, or the storage capacity from 30 days to 60 days or to 90 days. And the increase in cost would be somewhere between $120,000 and $150,000, depending on going to either 60 or 90 days. So that would increase the cost to either $591,000 or $625,000. Ultimately, the project team is still recommending the project be awarded to the same vendor with the 30-day archival video storage. And after a lot of discussion, the committee agreed with that recommendation. And ultimately, the decision was about risk versus reward and dollars, and where we thought those dollars, $150,000, might be better spent. And we were focused on students and the ability to leverage that funding for student achievement and so forth and so on. And so the thought, at least of the committee, was we would rather see those dollars spent in a different way. And so that's ultimately where the recommendation is coming from. But so that will come as an action item today, and there's discussion that can be held during that time. The third and final thing that we talked about was the budget timeline and the budget parameters and assumptions for fiscal year 23-24. That will also be presented today, and there is an approval for a resolution to hold a hearing that will be an action item for today as well. That ends our report.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Weems. Next, we have our policy committee report from Ms. Lott.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Trustee Heinrich for stepping in while I was attending the Michigan Association for Computer Users in Learning McCall conference. That was a 3-day conference with teachers all over the state of Michigan. Those who were present at our March 16th meeting was, again, Claudia Heinrich, who is the vice president and the acting chair, Terry Weems, our treasurer, myself, I was absent, of course, and then there was also Dr. Delgado, who was a part of this policy meeting, along with Mr. Shelton, who is our athletic and school safety director, and Mary Larkin, who is our Farmington Public School registered nurse, and then Wes Prescott, who is with the Oakland County executive assistant, along with Ms. Kathy Stranren. I messed that up. Starren. Thank you. There are 4 items on the agenda. The first item is the cybersecurity. We have been looking to develop a cybersecurity policy. Some of us had been a part of a couple of meetings with cybersecurity folks providing some additional information. So Mr. Wes Prescott will provide sample cybersecurity policies from the district, and we'll also have Miller and Johnson who will provide samples as well, which is our attorneys. And the sample policies will be reviewed on our next policy meeting. The next item is the Narcan policy. Mary Larkin, who is our registered nurse, provided the following information. That Narcan is an opioid antagonist that is used in the event of an accidental overdose. Mrs. Larkin is aware of a program that would be, that we would be able to receive free Narcan into our buildings and free training for our administrators and CRISE teams as well. We also have the Alliance and the Coalition to the Healthy Community organization, and they will be out to the schools and train everyone for no charge at all, and there is no limit to the number of Narcan items that would be available to us. It's stated that the committee will bring the Narcan policy language from Miller-Johnson Policy Service Provider to the April 14th, 2023 regular meeting for discussion and possible adoption at the April 18th meeting for regular board meeting. The third item is the electronic device policy, which is pretty much the cell phones. And the current policy permits students to use electronic devices subject to school rules developed in each building. Therefore, the committee does not see that there is a need at this time for the board to take any additional actions, as it is believed that it is already a well-written policy. The fourth item is the school safety audit, and that is under Mr. Shelton, who has been doing some informal and internal audits with our school resource officers this year. The district has received a Section 97 grant funding, and he is in the process of meeting with vendors for audits. And if extended audits do not occur during this upcoming school year, it is stated that we will make sure that that happens at the beginning of the next school year. Mr. Shelton regularly meets with our school resource officers in the district. One is from Farmington Public Safety, and the other two are from the city of Farmington Hills. And we basically have looked to build a school resource office-led classroom-based lessons for safety and health-related topics into the K through 12th grade curriculum, and will help support our district initiatives. One more. The Safety and Security Policy 6002 is comprehensive and states that the superintendent will develop and implement a maintenance program for the safe and efficient operation of the school district. The program will provide regular inspections and periodic maintenance of all schools, districts, and facilities. And to ensure these safeties and securities, the committee agrees to no action is needed for this policy. However, it may need that we could adjust the administrative regulations. Mr. Shelton will provide a detailed board presentation on school safety in the fall. Our future agenda item will be the best work transcript. Most information will be provided at the next policy meeting. It was adjourned, the meeting was adjourned on March the 16th at 4:49 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fox, for that report. Next, we have several discussion items. The first is the review of the Farmington Steam Serving Lines purchase recommendation as described by Ms. Ween. Do you have any additional information that you want us to? Yes,
I
go
see
ahead.
that Miss Angie Davis is approaching the podium, so I'm sure she's happy to give you an overview of what this is and any questions that you have.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening. The Nutrition Services Department is recommending the purchase of new serving lines for Farmington STEAM Academy to, as mentioned earlier, that this was a former middle school. So now that it is a kindergarten through 8th grade, we're trying to make it more efficient. I believe, to the best of my knowledge, this is probably the original equipment for the school. So it is very old. It's not all operating, properly. So with the redesign, it will help create a more efficient serving line for the students, and it will allow us to upgrade our menu choices. And if the governor approves everything for free meals, this will really help to get the kids through the line efficiently. The architects through the bond is doing some work to the walls to open it up to help with the flow of the students coming through the meal lines. The pricing was requested through a state bid to help speed up this process. We did receive 2 vendors that provided pricing for us, Stafford Smith and Douglas Equipment. Stafford Smith is a company that we've used several times, and again, they were the lowest bidder for this project at $175,387. Douglas Equipment submitted a bid for $178,390.14, so just a little bit more than Stafford Smith, but it is a recommendation to award the bid to Stafford Smith. They are the lowest bidder, and they have worked on several projects for us. Currently, North Farmington's kitchen, that is starting very soon. So we'd like to continue. And if approved by the board tonight, the purchase of the serving lines will be paid for out of the Nutrition Services Fund. Any questions? No? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next item for discussion is the review of the reproductive health instructional resource adoption for grades 4.
Good evening, Board of Education. I'm Margaret Hendrickson, Director for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and I have with me
Whitney Tyner, Instructional Technology Coordinator and Sex Ed Supervisor here in Farmington, as well as former 7th grade health teacher and former health instructional leader.
Is Puberty Workshop the name of the curriculum?
program.
Okay.
Yep. So our school district does have a K-12 reproductive health curriculum. Just for the Board of Education knowledge, that instruction occurs primarily in 4th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, and 9th grade. And as part of a reproductive health curriculum, we are also including, as required by the state of Michigan, HIV instruction at the 5th, 7th, and 9th grade level. If you have a K-12 reproductive health curriculum, you are required at each grade band to include HIV. We build our reproductive health curriculum based on the state health standards. We identify what's appropriate at the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 9th grade level. And we look at resources that are supportive of each of those grade bands. It is important to know, as in all of our adoptions, that we include staff in that process. And Ms. Tyner will be able to share our staff inclusion. But it's also important for the board to know we also have a health advisory committee, as required by the state of Michigan, which is made up of a variety of stakeholders from the community and the district to review any recommendations made for shifts or changes or updates to our reproductive health curriculum. And so we did meet with those individuals as part of this adoption. Something else that I would like the board to understand is that we're required by the state of Michigan to assure, as we're looking at new resources for reproductive health, that we engage the community in an opportunity to review those themselves. So last week, we had a parent preview evening to take a look at these new resources that we're going to be proposing to the board for discussion tonight at grades 4 and 5. It was called the Puberty Workshop. We'll come to discussion tonight to share with you our recommendation. We will have another parent preview evening tomorrow night, and then we will come to the board in early April for action. We strategically place those parent previews so that if a parent or community member has any questions or concerns they would like to share at public comment or communicate with the board or ourselves as a district, they are welcome to do so. Okay? So we'll spend our time kind of going through what our proposal is for 4th and 5th grade, but just wanted you to have that context.
Thank you.
So this evening, we're just going to talk a little bit about giving a little historical context around what we did as a district and teachers. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about why we chose the puberty workshop, how it's aligned to the state benchmark standards, and present a little bit of the anchor material. So beginning last year during the winter 2022, what we did is put together a selection team, a curriculum selection team made up of 4th and 5th grade general ed teachers as well as special ed teachers. And we were tasked with vetting and evaluating multiple curriculums. We chose the Michigan model, Puberty, the Wonder Years, and finally the Puberty Workshop to thoroughly go through and look at all of the different types of activities and materials that those 3 curriculums had to offer our students. After evaluating all of these curriculums, we chose the Puberty Workshop for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons being that it was most aligned with our state of Michigan benchmarks.
So as we looked at the puberty workshop, there were some compelling whys as to why we felt it was the right fit for Farmington Public Schools. When you look at any reproductive health curriculum, you want to look at age and developmental appropriateness. So really wanted to make sure that the materials would speak to our students at that appropriate level. We wanted to make sure there was accurate information embedded in those resources that was age appropriate. We wanted to make sure it addressed appropriate puberty and reproductive health standards that are aligned with Michigan, as Ms. Tyner shared. We really appreciated this as you start to watch those videos that we shared with the board, that there are diverse ages and cultures of the individuals that speak in these resources on the videos, and they're very relatable and approachable to the students. Because a video component is a very central anchor part of these resources, along with fact sheets, activities, and stuff. But those videos, we really wanted to make sure it was compelling for the students. We wanted to make sure that, as you noticed as you watched the videos, the images, the graphics, the drama drawings, and even some humor made it accessible to students. And one of the pieces that was really important to the committee at the teacher level, as well as the reproductive health committee, advisory committee at the district level, was making sure at every moment we encouraged our students to have conversations with parents and or another trusted adult in their life as they start to understand how puberty impacts them as early as 4th grade on through their middle school and high school years.
So as we looked through and aligned the puberty workshop with the state of Michigan health standards, one of the things that Margaret just mentioned that really stuck out was the fact that thank you. That the topics, they were aligned with both the puberty workshop as well as the Michigan Health State Standards. In the 4th grade, some of the topics that will be covered in the puberty workshop that are also covered within the state standards are social emotional health, making sure that students are able to identify strong feelings and emotions, starting to learn how to manage those emotions, applying conflict resolution skills, just to highlight a few. And then the puberty and development portion of the 4th grade state benchmarks, as well as within the puberty workshop, it focuses quite a bit on personal hygiene, understanding that puberty varies among individuals. And one of the things that I thought was fantastic was that it helps students at a young age identify who those trusted adults are. So students are able to start making decisions themselves about who those trusted individuals are in their lives. So the 4th and 5th grade cover, within the puberty workshop, cover the social emotional health topics up there, as well as the puberty and development. And then as we move on to the 5th grade level, we see that not only is there a review of the social emotional health and puberty and development at the 4th grade level in the 5th grade, but then we also go into our HIV and AIDS education.
As a part of these materials, as you notice the binder coming through, the board was shared the videos that come with the resources, but there's a pre-post assessment, very short, simple pre-post assessment for each video. There are a set of student activities, student fact sheets, and even information for families that we can select and choose which one of those we feel are required as part of how we wrap around instruction with the videos. And so we do appreciate having the pre and post so that we can collect data on how our students are doing and then report out to the board where our students are. We will be reporting out every 2 years on where we are with our reproductive health curriculum and how we're meeting our standards. And so that binder that you see going around would be purchased as part of the purchase, and it has all the fact sheets, information about the videos, and all of those.
Here's a visual representation of how each one of these videos would play out at each grade level. So at the 4th and 5th grade level, there is one video with multiple student fact sheets, multiple student activities that we can choose from. It would be shown at the 4th and 5th grade level. And then at the 5th grade level, we have the girls in puberty video, as well as the boys in puberty video. We start to get a little bit deeper into understanding our new emotions, our new feelings that come along with puberty. And then finally, in the 5th grade also is the HIV and AIDS education.
So just for some clarity, which is questions we often get from the community, is do we show these videos in single gender groups or co-ed groupings? And so the puberty video, the what is puberty video, which is very generic about the changes and emotions that we might experience, is single gender groupings at the 4th grade, right? And that's the only video at the 4th grade. Then as we go into 5th grade, the girls in puberty and the boys in puberty video, each gender sees both videos, but in gender-alike groups. The puberty, what is puberty video, can be seen at the 5th grade level again, because we do feel kids develop at a different level, and that reviewing of that content can be very critical. That could be, because it's a video they've already seen, could be a co-ed setting. The new emotions and new feelings, the 4th video, and the HIV and AIDS, the 5th grade video, are designed to be seen in co-ed settings. And so we try to be very sure to make them in the most comfortable place for our students. And that's one of the most common questions. What is important to understand is that we share with our families at the building level a preview night before this instruction happens. So every parent can have access to the resources and view that. That is part of state law. Another part of state law is every family has the ability to opt out of that instruction, as long as they just send an email communication, written communication to the principal. There is no risk for the student. They aren't marked down. There's no repercussion on grading. We want to make sure that we are providing accurate information for students at different grade levels. We encourage families to have conversations ahead of our instruction, after our instruction, as they make decisions on what's appropriate for their student. We do share with families as well, though, that while you might choose to opt your child out of the instruction, that doesn't mean they might not hear things from other students. So we just encourage families to have those conversations that fit into whatever their cultures, their values, or the norms are in their family to support their student. But just to be aware, conversations can be had. But we're hoping with our instruction that those conversations are accurate information they're receiving and not inaccurate information. So we really see this as a partnership. We're not providing the primary instruction on all those topics for families. We are providing a basis that families can jump off of and be supported by. This just gives you a little glimpse about what is in each video. The information shared with the Board of Education gave a little broader description of each video, and you have access to viewing those online as well, the full video. And we can open up for questions.
I want to say thank you for bringing this back. We have done this prior to, years ago. Whitney, you of course know this, because I actually sat on the committee when it first began and started. We have not had these conversations in quite a while. It's important for our students to know. Are we teaching anything that's illegal or whatever? No. But I appreciate to hear, I mean, I don't know what happened and where the ball dropped, because this has not been going on for a while. But I appreciate you bringing this back. And of all people, a health teacher that has done this for years, that has the experience, that knows. I had some calls and people asking me, well, are they teaching our kids, grooming our kids? What? No. You know, pay attention, listen to what we're doing here. This is nothing wrong. We're not putting anything out there that can't be taught and learned, you know, in other districts as well. So I appreciate it. I've been waiting for this to come back for a while. Thank you so much.
I have a couple of questions. This is a new curriculum that you're looking to adopt for next year. Is it replacing a current health curriculum?
So we are replacing current 4th and 5th grade material. And our teachers are hoping that this actually is approved so they can use the materials this school year, because they've been asking for new resources for a while. We heard about this before the pandemic, and now we're nested in the work. So our anticipation is we are able to do the purchase and provide supports for our staff for showing these videos and the associated either student activities or fact sheets. Our staff would like to use it this year.
I watched the videos, and I appreciate you previewing it for me. And one thing that it highlighted, every video and every resource said, if you have questions, talk to a parent, a teacher, a school nurse, a counselor, or a trusted adult. And that's a consistent message that kids are getting, not even in the health curriculum, but, you know, it's, so I was impressed with the resources. So will the classroom teachers, are they the ones that are actually doing the instruction?
Yep, the classroom teachers support their own 4th and 5th graders.
And so do they need any training in order to do this, or just the?
So any K-5 teacher is, by state law, able to teach this curriculum. At the middle school and high school, it's a health teacher certified to teach. We do take advantage of professional development offered at Oakland schools, so we are sure that every 5 years, each teacher, whether they're 4th, 5th, 7th, or 9th grade teacher, goes to update training on reproductive health and HIV, in addition to whatever internal training. We love Canvas because it provides us a great resource for professional development, and so what Ms. Tyner has done is really built a course within Canvas to share the resources, provide support for staff. We also are going to be providing additional opportunities in person or synchronous with staff to be able to connect with using these resources.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a few questions as well. This is a topic that I hear a lot about from parents. I hear a lot of concern about what is being taught and what is not being taught. And I heard a lot of, frankly, misinformation about what is being communicated to students and how they're encouraged to, you know, connect with the teacher as opposed to parents or other trusted adults. So I'm happy to hear you correct some of that misinformation. I also watched some of the videos. I didn't get to all of them. But what I really appreciated was the different perspectives that were represented throughout the videos. You know, pediatricians and peers and, you know, real talk about what some young people may be concerned about and, you know, unwilling to talk about, and to get responses from doctors, I think was a really good thing. I also really appreciated the social emotional pieces that were incorporated in it, specifically around body images and shaming. And one thing that really resonated with me was a section that talked about celebrities and do they really look like they do in pictures. And, you know, so because especially for young women, young ladies, that's important to kind of learn and understand. So I appreciate the thought that was put into here. I don't know what the other curriculum looked like, but I am interested to understand what the major differences were. You said that some were more aligned to standards and just others weren't. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so the Michigan model has many terrific resources regarding nutrition, physical fitness, substance abuse education. However, that particular curriculum doesn't necessarily align itself to the puberty, growth and development, as well as the HIV/AIDS education that the puberty workshop does.
Thank you. Another question I had was, how often is this reviewed? I think Mrs. Smith asked this question as well. I remember, I've been on the board for a while, you know, a presentation on this, but we haven't had one in a while. Is it just coming to us now because we're changing?
So remember, I came in right before the pandemic and got a sense of where we were in our reproductive health curriculum, and understanding that it had been a while since we had gone and looked at our current resources, their alignment, and whether they really were speaking to our students and supporting our teachers in those conversations. And it was clear that it hadn't been looked at in a while, which I find is kind of a trend in many districts. And so is our commitment post-pandemic to start at those earliest grades and start looking at the 4 or 5 grade band, the middle school and the high school grade band, so we can take a look at what resources we need. And every resource we choose is aligned to the state standards. So if anyone goes to the state of Michigan Department of Ed and you look at the standards, you go to the health standards. That is what we are looking for in terms of alignment, not some of what we do here in the greater community about what is considered to be a part of these programs.
And then can you describe a bit about how messaging gets to parents? So I was definitely aware that this was coming because I saw something on a listserv. Yeah. But for parents who don't subscribe to listserv, is there messaging going out, you know, in a written form or in emails directly to parents who may be impacted or affected?
So Ms. Tyner did a really nice job generating some communication for each building to send out to their community parents so that they could attend the preview nights that are part of this adoption process. Independent of communication around this adoption process, each building sends out a letter, and we're constructing some common language and common letter. We'll go out ahead of instruction, so 4th grade parents should get a communication from their school and or teacher about the preview night and when this is being taught. And so they get direct communication from the building as to when it's coming and what it's about. If a parent cannot come to the parent preview night, they can come in at any time and preview those materials in the school setting. We cannot release the videos we can't put them on YouTube for everyone to see because they are copyrighted, but we can provide opportunities for anyone to preview the materials that they see fit. So it's communication directly from the building and the teacher as to when this occurs and an opportunity to view the resources.
Thank you for saying that as well, because that was going to be my second question, and I was going to ask you to correct me if I were wrong. There's an annual opportunity for parents to come in and review the materials. Is that correct?
Each building sets that up independently and communicates with their family and community, whatever is the best way to communicate there, and whatever vehicle. Some people might do a 4th grade one night, 5th grade another night. It might vary by dinner. I think I need dinner. It might vary by building, but it does occur.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Smith.
I want to say thank you for covering the HIV part. My daughter, who turned 30 today, was a preemie. that had to have blood transfusions. And so when she was at one of the schools that is no longer in existence, she had to be tested up until the age of 10. So we had to, because there was tainted blood at the hospital where she was not one of the preemies that got it. But to be educated now, whereas the principal, myself, and the teacher had to tell people and the students. So it's good for the students to get this education. It is good, not to be, I see nothing, I hear nothing, I say nothing. This whole burying our heads in the sands and walking away from things. And that's just with anything. But with this, you are educating. And I really, really appreciate it. Because then there's no stigma or no judgment or what have you. There is going to be judgment. You're going to always have somebody that's got something smart or rude to say. But in this case, there is education being taught to the students. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just in briefly looking through the booklet, piggybacking on what you were mentioning about the videos and how the videos keep coming back to, if you have questions, speak to a parent or another trusted adult in your life. One of the early activities gives the students some guidance as to how to talk to their trusted adults in their lives. It has something called Interview with a Puberty Survivor.
Yes. That's a great one.
Interview with a puberty survivor, and you find someone in your family, in your life, who survived puberty, and you interview them. What years were you in? In middle school and high school, and what music was popular at that time? What movies were popular at that time? How did you most learn about puberty? Was it in school, or what do you wish that somebody had told you about? So it really provides kind of a fun and relatively easy way to ease into conversation around puberty with a trusted adult, and that's really brilliant. So thank you to you and to the teachers who were willing to pilot this, and I'm excited for our students to have access to an updated curriculum. My understanding and my experiences have been that at the 4th and 5th grade level, the curriculum is primarily anatomy, female anatomy, male anatomy, and puberty. And so it doesn't really delve into other specifics at that level. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And of course, the social
emotional piece, yes.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
Thank you to the Board of Education and Dr. Delgado.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the review of the budget timeline.
We do, and we have at the podium our wonderful Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Mrs. Jennifer Kaminsky.
Yes, they were doing it for me. It was jumping around. So, good evening. I just wanted to say a few things about our bond issue. Last Thursday, Dr. Delgado talked about the student program and the great partners that we had that came to share, what they do in the bond process. But we actually had a very, very successful bond. It was exciting. This was my 5th bond issue here in Farmington, and I had never seen the back part of the process. So it was exciting for us in the business office as well to join in and see that. But they did put up a screen that showed all 20 years worth of bonds that were available for sale. And so when they opened it at 9:30, orders came in slowly at first, and then started to just really come in. We had sold them within, say, 45 minutes. And by the end, we had 3.5 times the orders for bonds that were available. So in that case, then, it kind of becomes a bidding war. Stiefel and PFM then go and negotiate, which gets us a better deal. So it was really successful. We were in the market at the right time, just by happenstance, because after our period ended, the market started to change. So really exciting for us, but I just wanted to share those. It was exciting for me to see the process as well, and have the students enjoy that and see the different careers that are also available to them. So budget timeline for 23-24, as well as the budget parameters and assumptions. So we'll start off with the timeline. This evening, I am going to review the timeline, the assumptions, and the parameters for next year's budget. We'll also ask you, as part of the action items, to approve a resolution to conduct our public budget hearing, which will take place on June 6, 2023 this year. And then we'll ask you to approve the timeline, these assumptions and parameters at the April 4th meeting. We'll have our budget document available on June 1st on our website, available for the public to view as well as the Board of Education. And then we'll have that public hearing on our budget on June 6th, as well as reviewing our tax levies. And on June 20th, we'll ask the board to adopt our 2023-24 budget, as well as our tax levies. So I wanted to just kind of put it into simple terms, how we actually come up with the original budget for next year. So that's our 23-24 budget. So we really start with our current 2022-23 amended budget. And so typically we'll start with our first amendment. That's where we've made adjustments almost to every line within the budget. And then if there are any major things that occur in the second amendment, we'll incorporate that into next year's budget as well, to make sure they're properly reflected. And then we will apply the revenue and expenditure parameters and assumptions that we come up with to kind of generate that original budget. So again, we're starting with our 2022-23 budget, adjusting for the items that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides, and then coming up with that original budget. So again, just trying to highlight and review, what is our budget made up of? What are the big items that we focus on during this budget development process? So obviously our foundation allowance for 22-23, so these are the current year numbers, is at $11,026, and we are collecting our full foundation allowance. Thank you to the taxpayers who approved that restoration millage back in November. So as you can see, part of it comes from homestead and non-homestead property taxes, with the balance from the state. So the foundation allowance makes up about 60% of our revenue. And again, local property taxes make up about 45%, with the state providing the 55% of that foundation allowance. So other big items, other state and local revenue is at about 21%. So those are things that come from the state, categorical items, such as our special ed funding, at risk, those $31A dollars. Adult ed, MIPSR's retirement, both at offset cost, as well as the UAAL. Those are additional revenues, early literacy, and then bilingual. And then on the other local revenue side, we have preschool tuition, interest revenue. We receive Medicaid fee for service, and then our athletic pay to participate fees. On the inter-district revenue side, that's about 7%, and those are the county special education and vocational education millages that are levied by Oakland schools and then distributed to local districts through formula. So federal revenue obviously has been a huge portion of our revenue over the last few years. So currently, all of our federal revenue within our budget is about 10%, but it's made up of both recurring grants. So each year we receive Head Start, IDEA, Special Education, Title I, II, III, and IV, as well as adult ed funds. So those have been constant federal grants that we've had for many years. And then our one-time funds. So those that are currently still in our budget, because there are many that have already been spent and they're not included anymore, are the ESSER II funds, and then those ESSER III funds, which also includes the 11T allocation from the state. So the ESSER III is still, a pretty significant portion of the federal revenue budget right now. So on the expenditure side, salaries and benefits are about 79%. And typically we see that in the, 83, 84% range. But because of these significant federal dollars that we've received over the last few years and how we've spent some of those dollars, as well as, increasing our custodial services on the purchase service side, utilities have gone up. So those pieces all kind of shift within that pie. So once these federal dollars go away, salaries and benefits will most likely be back into the 80% range. Purchase services, so custodial services, utilities, water and phone, repairs and maintenance are sub-costs because we use subs through EduStaff, software license fees, and then contracted services and conferences make up the biggest pieces. Supplies are about 9%. So again, all teaching supplies, textbooks, but it also includes utilities, so our natural gas and electricity, and those have gone up, over the last year or so significantly. Fuel, that's gone up, and then the cost of supplies, we all know, have risen as part of due to inflation. And then on the other expenditure side, we have special education tuition payments to other districts. We do pay for some dual enrollment, Grad Alliance, and virtual classes. We have those operating transfers that go to our capital projects funds, and then we have some miscellaneous fees, dues, and tax write-offs for property taxes. So some of the key assumptions that we're looking at as we develop the 23-24 budget are we want to maintain our high-quality instruction and programming. And we do, the business office, in cabinet discussions, we have regular discussions with the instruction department to make sure that we're allocating the resources that they need, either to implement a new textbook adoption, to implement a new program that they may be starting. So again, allocating those resources, making sure we're focusing on instructional initiatives, and continuing the supports for student achievement. So other things that we're taking into account, obviously the governor's school aid budget that was presented in February. We've gotten some enrollment projections from 2 outside companies. We're obviously going to consider the inflation impact and rising costs and make sure that we have our budget adjusted accordingly, and maintaining that fund balance of 10 to 15%. So just some of the instructional initiatives that we're currently working on or, getting ready to implement in the near future. So in the current year, middle school teaming and project-based learning, I know we're working with a company, New Tech Network, to make sure that implementation goes smoothly. We've talked about the K-2 Foundational Skills Program that focuses on literacy for K-2 that will be implemented next year. We have new textbook adoptions, classroom libraries for grades 6 through 12. We have partnerships with Apple and Urban Learning. We've put some flexible furniture into open spaces at the middle school level, starting off, and we're continuing that work into other buildings. We have a focus on K-5 numeracy and literacy, and then those self-paced software programs that focus on math and literacy and adjust to the students' level as they progress. These are just a few things that we wanted to highlight. There's many more, so I know Margaret has a huge list. So on the revenue side, the parameters and assumptions that we're looking to, at least right now, propose for next year's budget. Because again, it's, we're March, and over the next few months, things will change, more information will come out. There'll be another revenue estimating conference at the state level, and so we'll want to factor in all those things. So some of these parameters and assumptions that we set now may change as we set the final budget. So enrollment, we did receive projections, and in looking at our data as well, we have finally stabilized from that enrollment decline. So we're going to build enrollment flat in this upcoming budget. No increase, no decrease in students. We are going to include a foundation allowance increase of $458 per pupil, and that was based on the governor's budget proposal. There is some categorical funding that's been proposed as well. There are actually many things included in the governor's budget, but these two are the ones that are most likely to go through. There has been a focus on kind of fully funding that foundation allowance for special education, and then helping districts with that offset for the retirement cost increase. So you'll see special ed, we have an increase of about $900,000, and that MIPSR's offset revenue of about $1.1 million, an increase. And then we have a slight increase in interdistrict revenue, which again is that PA-18, the county special education millage and funds that are passed through Oakland schools. And nutrition services, indirect costs will build in the same amount that we have in the current year. So on the federal revenue side, we typically, and we're going to continue, carrying over our recurring grants flat. So whatever we're receiving this year and we have in the budget, we'll continue that amount into next year. But we will adjust for those ESSER funds that we know we've spent this year. Because they're so significant, we want to make sure we're adjusting our revenue and expenditures in the following year to get to a more realistic number. As I think right now we're estimating decreasing it by about $5 million next year. So that has impacts on calculations. So on the expenditure side, so wages and benefits will be budgeted at negotiated levels. We still have contracts that are in place, several through the end of next year. There are a couple that are expiring, at the end of June that we'll be looking at and negotiating in the near future. So whatever, comes of that, what we know at the time when we set our budget, we'll incorporate that information. We build in replacement savings for 10 teacher retirements. So assuming that we have 10 teachers, say at the top step, retire, and we hire a new staff member that costs us less, that has an impact on our budget. The MIPSR's retirement rate actually increased significantly for one of the categories, and those are the individuals who are in the MIP basic program. So there was a 3 percentage point increase, which is really significant. The other categories kind of stayed the same. So right now, I've included a 3% increase for the retirement rate. However, we're going to go back and take a look at that and see, where our employees are at on that schedule to see whether that full 3% should be included. So still more work to do there, but right now a 3 percentage point increase. Fringe benefits, we know are on the increase. We have rates flat through at least December 31st, but there will be some increase in costs as we move through next fiscal year. So we've included a 5% increase. Utility costs, we didn't increase the budget this year, and we are proposing to include an additional increase next year. Still seeing those costs increasing. Fuel costs, again, we did build in a significant increase this year, and we'll add an additional amount next year, so about $100,000. And then we'll continue those transfers to our capital projects funds, $300,000 to technology, other projects, and $600 to the bus purchase maintenance fund. So just some current unknowns. Again, the House and Senate, I believe, are currently working on their bills, but they have not been released, so we'll need to wait and see. When will the school aid budget be approved? David Randall's last Friday indicated, well, they could have it approved by July 1, maybe even June 1, but, nobody really knows. Again, there'll be a revenue estimating conference in May where numbers will be updated. So we'll see whether we're still on target with what they had originally projected. Enrollment, again, we're going to continue to review that. We'll take a look at school of choice information and see whether that's going to impact us for next year. Staffing, any staffing changes that we know of, we'll try to account for. But again, we don't know the exact staff and where they're at until we start the new year and we have our students. And then, of course, the federal and state economies, how those will impact us going forward. And I can answer any questions.
So I was in the Finance Committee meeting, so I don't have a ton of questions, but I do want to make a comment. Thank you for including some of the instructional initiatives that we're focused on this year and how those have been incorporated into the budget, particularly K through 5 numeracy and literacy. I know that we're doing it. I didn't see it on the page, the high dosage tutoring. I know that there are things that we're doing at the high school level as well, and I just wanted to make sure that the rest of the board was aware of that. I'm also very happy to hear about the stabilization in enrollment. That is very good news. Since I've been on the board, it's been in decline, and it's really good to see that stabilizing. I think in this past year, it actually went up. So that's very good news. Thank you for presenting this. I know it's a lot of work.
Thank you.
Yes. Could you just tell me where CTE and career readiness funding fits in with the budget after that presentation that was given to us by Ms. Boyd last week and a lot of the innovations that are taking place? Just wanted to see where that is as it relates to this budget.
So some of the things that they're focusing on, you're asking about? So we do have, we receive about $400,000 to $500,000 of added cost dollars that are used to help support the CTE program. And those really support teaching supplies, conferences, competitions that students attend. So those will still be included in the budget as we move forward. We do have one of the largest CTE programs.
And as it relates to any of the equipment, like for the automotive programs and things of that nature, is that also coming out of that $400,000 to $500,000 as well, or are there other grants that we're able to obtain to take care of some of those equipment costs?
We have received actually some grants. The Margaret Dunning Foundation provided, I think it was about $30,000 for the autos program. Was it for a new lift? Can't remember if it was Farmington or North. And so we have received some additional grant dollars to help support some of those programs. And we do receive, you know, the vocational millage, those dollars from Oakland schools as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
It is now time for public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, the cards are on the table off to the side of the room. You can bring them up to Ms. Starren and put them in the bluish-green ceramic dish, and we will write you up. Right, first we have Mr. Bill Lubaway.
Good evening. I provided a written copy of my comments, which I may follow. So I recommended that the district prepare an education plan to achieve a minimum grade of B for the coming school year. Based on the board's blank stares, it dawned on me that the board doesn't have any idea what an education plan is. An education plan starts with SMART goals set by the board. Goals that clearly state the level of improved student academic achievement for school year 2023-24. None of this year's board goals are SMART goals. The SMART goals are rolled out to individual schools based on administration school-specific plans, and I'm sure there's more to it than that. The board has failed to set SMART goals in the past. Last year, Farmington Public Schools were given a grade D by the Michigan Department of Education. The failure to plan resulted in a grade of D. If the board fails to set SMART goals for coming school years, there is no reason that our community should trust you to improve quality. If you don't know where you're going, how can you improve it? Second area I wanted to talk about was closing learning gaps. Dr. Greenstein and I have spoken in the past about closing student learning gaps based on our pouring through the statistics that are available. And we focused initially on reading, and the district did adopt an elementary grade functional skills program, but there was nothing but silence about bringing middle school and high school student reading up to grade level proficiency. We spoke with the board and administration, and our suggestions were summarily dismissed. No explanation as to how or when the gaps are being addressed. We addressed the need to close significant reading gaps for African American students. Our concerns were summarily dismissed. The Farmington community has received no explanation as to how or when the gaps are being addressed. Is there a comprehensive education plan that will come riding to the student's rescue at the last minute? You all may have thought that we were trying to do management's planning job. We weren't. As concerned community members, we are seeking to understand the district's education plan.
Thank you, Mr. Lubaway. Mr. David Villar.
Alrighty. Hello, how are you all doing? I just would like to know two things. If we are going to make any advancement on parent surveys district-wide to get some feedback regarding some of the educational goals and concerns that we have as parents, you know, those of us that may need more assistance or more guidance. The other thing is the weekend tutoring opportunities. It seems to be that's a good jump-off point. A lot of positive feedback has come, you know, and it would be a great great way for us to augment that. Outside of that, I understand you guys have a lot on your plate, but those two things could really use some more attention. I think the feedback would be really helpful, especially when some of us are struggling to, really figure out how to make things work for our children. Maybe certain. I guess it wouldn't be something like. I guess it'd be something like tier 2 type of learning. So tier 2 types of learning strategies, which would include parent feedback. What do you guys think? So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Chris Gianchi.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. I'm speaking tonight to support the motion to approve the video surveillance with the 30-day time. After Ms. Weems' update, I kind of feel more comfortable in that. I'm hoping that's where the board is going. I appreciate all of the time and energy and discussion you put in the last 2 board meetings, the meeting where you learned about it and then the meeting where you ended up tabling the motion and requesting more information. Looking at the increase in costs between $120,000 and $154,000 does not feel to me like the best use of our bond dollars. Safety and security is incredibly important to me. It's important to my unit. It's important to my children that I send to schools every day, and my wife who works in one of your schools. I respect the opinions of all the people who raise the concerns and like the idea of having it from day 61 to 90. Or 31 to 90, but as Ms. Weems had said previously, what are we really getting out of that? There are other safety measures that we would like to see put in place that take precedent over this. I had the opportunity to talk to Dr. Delgado and Dr. Coffin last Friday about that. I feel that there are some better uses for that money. I would not go into detail about that in public because I'm personally uncomfortable with us even discussing our security measures in a public forum, but I would gladly talk to anybody about them in a private setting outside of this. But again, I want to support the measure of using the 30 days. I think the expense is too great and there are other things that we could take care of with that. And I really appreciate all the time that you guys put into vetting this and being thorough about it and being concerned about the safety and security of our schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Mark Forshee.
Every Farmington and Farmington Hills school board consists of about 2 hours or more of self-congratulations from the school board and hand-picked supporters, mostly from the schools, along with people selling costly things to the schools. The supporters often give presentations that are a delightful combo of tedium, excessive length, vagueness, and often hard-to-read slides. During this self-praise fest that go on and on about the superb things they do and the schools do, superlatives abound: great, fantastic, amazing, tremendous. Boy, we're great. Apparently, no one in the whole school system ever does anything wrong. Perfection has been achieved here. But there's more. The treasurer reads a large list of expensive expenditures. The money vote, no suspense here. Every vote is a swift 7-0 with no real discussion. Spend $1 million tax, buckos. An instant 7-0 vote is a sure thing. During the meetings, the always pro-school supporters can speak as long as they wish and do dull presentations. The board actually talks to the presenters. In contrast, toward the end of this always superb, wonderful, excellent, great marathon, the public are invited to speak only 3 minutes while school boards sit in stony silence. And members of the public are not allowed to do any presentation. Can't do that. Why are the school boards such a baleful affairs? Because the school board is a 7-0 monopoly. It is not partisan. They can do and say whatever they want, and no one can stop them, while placing restrictions on the taxpayers' freedom of speech. One-party rule is never good. It means that tens of thousands of taxpayers in Farmington and Farmington Hills have zero representation on this school board. This has gone on for too long. Citizens must wake up and stop the monopoly and include diversity of thought.
Is there any further public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing no further public comment, comment is now closed. Okay, next we have 3 action items that we need to address this evening. The first is the approval of the technology purchase, the video surveillance recommendation. We had quite a bit of additional discussion on this last week. That's okay. I think.
I have the motion.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I move that the Board of Education approve the award for the video surveillance bid in the amount of $469,687.32 for a 30-day archival video storage using Securitech with funds to come from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 Fund as presented.
Second. Motion by Ms. Heinrich, seconded by Ms. Weems. Is there any discussion?
Not to go into a big, long conversation on this, I greatly appreciate my colleagues' discussion at our last board meeting. We wanted more information. We got a lot more information. And I think that this is the right path moving forward, but I'm glad that we weren't just rushing to get something done for the sake of getting something done.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to reiterate, at the finance meeting, we really had a lot of discussion on this, and you know, as a board, we want to look at things through a financial lens, and there's just X number of dollars available, and so really we want to look at how to best serve the needs of all the students equitably, and there's X cost dollars, and you know, we looked at all of the workshops and training and things we've had on school safety and security. I'll talk about the importance of really preventative is building relationships and having people in the building. And so, you know, speaking the extra cost for increased archival service or storage is equivalent to really the cost of 3 to 4 hall monitors. And when push comes to shove and dollars get tight in the district, those are always the first things that are cut. And so it's really important to, you know, look at what we're doing and being fiscally responsible with the dollars that are used, and the fact that any storage or any videos can be downloaded and stored indefinitely, I think is really important to keep into consideration also. And surveillance cameras, you know, from all the information received, they're not preventative, they're after the fact. And so it's just interesting because nobody objects to surveillance cameras being in the buildings at all, whereas maybe 10 years ago, you know, that was a question, why do we need them? And so now it's not only do we have them, but it's like having more of them. So it's just interesting how things have evolved. But I really feel, you know, as a board, we really need to be fiscally responsible. Our community has really done a good job of supporting the villages, supporting the bonds, and giving us the money to really operate the district and to take care of the buildings. And so, you know, I appreciate the board taking the time to look into this and all of the information that was brought to the committee for discussion.
Yes.
Are you done? I appreciate all the work that everyone has put into this. It just didn't go on deaf ears. As everyone has done their research, I had done mine too. But I appreciate the committee that looked into this. But when we talk about fiscal responsibility, I do believe in being fiscal and having that responsibility when it comes to other people's dollars. But I also believe in safety. When I get car insurance, I don't get half. I get whole. Is there a possibility that I'm going to be in an accident? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm covered. And I believe in, we've got staff members that leave the buildings late. If we have a parent-teachers conference or what have you, you leave later, you still got a parent outside waiting that's not happy, that's disgruntled with the results or whatever. Anything can happen. I understand there's the iClouds and all of the above. But when it comes down to the cost of someone's safety, I'm sorry, I just can't support it. I am a firm believer in 90 days. There's incidents, we even had one of our officers stand before us and tell us there's a case that I don't know anything about that has happened. And we don't know if there's any surveillance, whatever. Do I trust Dr. Delgado to get that information to me? Absolutely. You heard him earlier today talk about being over at Warner. This man works 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, on spot all the time. But is he going to be able to get that information, not only for himself, but for all of us? So I'm still 90 days. But I do appreciate all the work that went into it.
Yes, you're welcome.
A question, not so much to label this action item. Do we collect any kind of data on incidents that have happened, safety incidents, physical safety incidents that have taken place across the district, or acts of vandalism to any of our facilities? Do we collect that kind of data, and where is that data typically housed?
So we track every single incident that's reported to any of our administrative team, whether it comes through surveillance video or just by word of mouth from a parent or from a staff member. And so what we do as our first steps in the action is contact law enforcement and immediately review surveillance video. And if there's anything that we see, we capture that, we download it immediately, and to Mrs. Heinrich's point, we can keep that indefinitely. And we have used that in prosecutions, we've used that down the line in disciplinary hearings, and so, but in terms of tracking the incidents, we absolutely know every incident that happens in our school. We house that, whether it's in our MyStar system where we're entering and logging in about a student incident, or if we have an incident report, but we have all of that documented, and we address it promptly.
One more question, if I may. Is the system upgradable in terms of the server reservoir, if you will? Is it upgradable if we?
I know Mr. Prescott is here. He may be able to answer that.
So if,
Hearing a yes, it is.
a couple of years from now, if there was a need, we can go to 60 days, we can't go days.
And I'll look for a nod maybe, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Prescott, but my understanding is that the increase of the cost of 116 to 150,000 was actually for the additional servers that would be required to store the data. Is that accurate? Seeing a thumbs up.
Okay.
So it's actually, you're not paying for the additional duration, you're paying for actual additional servers, hardware.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other? Okay, then I believe it's time for a roll call vote.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
No.
I myself am yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
We have a 6. Motion passes.
Motion. Thank you. And thank you, colleagues, for the broad discussion over the multiple meetings. Yes.
I'd like to make the next motion. I move that the Board of Education approve the award for the Farmington STEAM Academy serving lines purchase recommendation to Stafford Smith Incorporated as outlined in their March 7, 2023 quote in the amount of $175,387, funds to come from the Nutrition Services Fund.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems, supported by Mr. Rich. Is there any discussion? Right. Roll call vote again.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Ms. Weems.
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
I myself am yes, and Dr. Blau.
Yes.
Unanimous vote, motion passes.
Wonderful. And we have a third item.
Dr. Blau?
Yes. Go ahead. Ms.
I
Weems.
move that the Board of Education approve the resolution to hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 24 budget and waive the reading of the resolution.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems, supported by Mr. Rich. None. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion. Right. Items from the treasurer, expenditures. Yes.
I move that the Board of Education approve the expenditures as outlined in the expenditure printout dated March 21st, 2023 as follows. From the general fund, $15,602,447. From the athletics group, $184,517. From the capital projects 2018 bond fund, $949,222. From the 2020 bond fund, $3,310,882. From the nutrition services fund, $460,377. And from the benefit stabilization fund, $1,861,204 for a total of $22,368,649.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems, supported by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Wonderful, motion passes. Thank you. Our consent agenda this evening. Yes. Ms. Weems.
I move that the Board of Education approve the March 21st, 2023 consent agenda that includes the approval of minutes from March 7th, 2023, the regular meeting, March 14th, 2023, the Board and Community Dialogue, the Head Start Director's monthly report, and personnel items.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems to approve the consent agenda, supported by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Reports from board representatives. Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
I have two. The student roundtable, we heard from the student roundtable vice president, but it's just such a joy to see the students working through. And they really had an interesting discussion because they were thinking about postponing the career fair till the fall, and they were like, no, we really want to do this now. And so they're going to have a learning experience, and there's a career fair at the Hawk, and so the whole student roundtable is committed to attending the career fair at the Hawk to see how it's done and to get contacts, and then they're going to come together, and they decided to hold it on a Saturday. So it's really nice to see the students working together. And also, they didn't talk about, they had a shadowing day that they shadowed district employees, and so it was really interesting to hear them talk about their experiences. Some of the students shadowed Dr. Delgado and just were really impressed with all the things that he does and the things that he shared with them. And they shadowed different staff members and teachers in the building. And I asked if there were any aspiring teachers, and none of them want to go into teaching. So we have to do a better job recruiting teachers. I hear there's a shortage. I also have a report on the Oakland County School Board Association meeting, which was on March 15th. I attended with Dr. Blau. And let's see, I have my notes here. We had a report on a proposed amendment, Michigan Court Rules 7.202 and 7.209. Don Watruba, Executive Director for Michigan Association of School Boards, talked about an issue at hand with the Michigan Supreme Court as they consider the issue of governmental immunity and removing this option and the impact it could have on school districts. And so board members should watch their email because there's information that came through on that. And also we had the keynote presentation, they had a panel on the future of school transportation. It was really well done. They had people from Director of Transportation, they had an electric vehicle specialist, they had somebody from DTE, and so they all had different parts. Right now there's 18 electric buses in Michigan since 2019, and in our ISD, Oxford has 2 electric buses, and Pontiac has a grant to purchase 25 electric buses. The Clean School Bus Program has $5 million over 5 years, and they're $5 billion over 5 years, and they're allocating $1 billion per year. And so beginning next year and for the next 4 years, there's going to be competitive grant funding. And so it's an opportunity for school districts to apply for grants. And Mr. John Barth was there, and so he's got the lowdown on that. So I will be interested in hearing in our district if we're going to apply for the funding, because it's really, it's free school buses and all the infrastructure and everything else. And they also talked about the health benefits of electric, which was a quiet ride, and the environmental, that there's no harmful emissions. And so, part of our profile of a lifelong learner really is to be, impactful or insightful of our environment. And they also gave a total cost comparison over the life of a bus, and it said that it saved $80,000 over the life of the vehicle. And so it's interesting to see, what's coming up with the electric transportation. I think those were the 2 board representative things. Okay.
Thank you very much, Ms. Heinrich. Are there any other board representative reports? Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I would like to let everyone know that FAMPN, the Farmington African American Parent Network, they've been doing some wonderful things during the Saturday meetings. Santoria Shepard, who is the vice president, and Tomas Hall, who is the president. Let me just tell you that on March the 11th, we had over 70 students who registered for the finance workshop through FAMPN. Each one of the students started with a career and a credit score. The students had a pre-selected budget amount based on their assigned occupation. Thank you. The students had to make financial choices for furniture, transportation, clothes, utility, and some students actually found it physically responsible to purchase a bus pass instead of buying transportation, like a big old car. There was stations that were representing every expense you would have to pay in terms of being an adult. They also were able to have an event with the help of the partners, and they wanted me to make sure to let each and every one of you know that they are very happy with the support that we have been given FAMPN. And with this particular finance workshop, the Michigan Schools and Government Credit Union, and the extraordinary ladies of the Kappa, Alpha Kappa, Alpha sorority, which is the AKA. Also, Farmington is super excited to announce that we were aware of the Farmington Award of the Farmington Hills Education Founding Grant. The grant will allow Farmington to host a ACT and a SAT workshop in April. Stay tuned for more information. In addition to the award grant, the Education Foundation has announced that they would have further discussions with Farmington to discuss more support for the future. In May, Farmington is working to host a career and technical education workshop. Stay tuned for more information and dates to come. Farmington would like to acknowledge and thank the community, the board members, the superintendents for their continued support of Farmington. And as they have said, we could not have done it without you guys. Just also want you to know that Farmington is also going to be on spring vacation, and they will come back April the 8th, and we'll open up at that time again. Thank you.
So no Super Saturday this Saturday?
Yes,
The next 2 Saturdays.
the next 2 Saturdays.
Oh, that's right. Thank you so much, Ms. Fox. All three of us, Ms. Heinrich and I, were there with you at the tutoring and at that financial responsibility.
Impressive, yeah.
Seminar. It was
Three of
really,
us, yes.
yeah, it was really impressive. I happened to overhear some of the students. They were looking at their options for furniture, and oh, well, let's get this couch and let's get this bed, and they had to purchase something to sit on as well as something to sleep on, and they were supposed to be two different things. And it was just, $625 just for the bed set that they were looking at. And, one of the credit union helpers asked something along the lines of, well, do you have the budget for that? And they looked and they discovered, oh, no, not if they wanted to eat. So they decided to go with a futon. But it was great. It was so well done, so well organized.
Yes.
Very impressive. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback that financial literacy workshop, the reality fair. I mean, it was just, it took just a tremendous amount of, these are all volunteers. I mean, the credit union comes in and brings all the resources, and then the sorority with the, all of their members came and manned all the stations, and it was just, I used to go back to my high school that I taught at, financial, they have a class, financial literacy class, and they would put on a reality fair every year. So just to have that tremendous resource, on a Saturday given by, so just kudos to our volunteers in our FAPN and to all of the volunteers that they brought in to do that. I was just, I just was like, had another commitment, I wanted to stay and help. So, yeah, it was great to see so many students really engaged. And we talk about these authentic tasks. And these are extra things. And so, just compliments to the parents in our community for, taking advantage of these opportunities for our students. It truly takes a whole village.
And to FAPN for hosting. It's really phenomenal. Really, really phenomenal.
Doing an excellent job.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I mean, 70 students on a Saturday. That's incredible. So congratulations. Successful program. Okay. Any other reports from board? Okay. We'll move on. Recommendation
I'm sorry, may I ask that Mr. Walker report on the community engagement?
I was going to do that under
Oh, okay.
Good and Welfare. So,
Is it a committee?
it's a committee, but no,
Okay, no
not my committee report.
Yep.
We haven't met yet for our
Gotcha.
follow-up after the dialogue. So, recommendations for future agenda items?
Yeah, we've talked about, there's a lot of talk about social, SEL, social emotional learning, and so we're going to ask, we've talked to Dr. Delgado to put together just information on what we're doing about social emotional learning, supporting our staff and our students, and you know, there's a lot of funds that are being spent, so just to have a report on that.
Anything else? Thank you, Ms. Heinrich. Good and welfare. Yes, Mr. Walker and then Ms. Smith.
Just would like to thank the community for coming out for our last board dialogue session. We had about 26 persons in here as we were discussing social media and the impact that it has on youth, and in the course of that discussion, the impact that it has on adults as well. A lot of people felt that it was a very good conversation, and again, it's another opportunity for the community and the board to connect and have just some dialogue about issues that impact our school community. I want to thank every member of the board for your support, Dr. Delgado, Kathy, Diane, who brings some great eats to the table for that, all of the staff who give of their time and make for a very, very long day, Dr. Dulio from Oakland U. Our next, we're going to have our debrief of that conversation which is a part of our plan to go back through, figure out what was good, what could be improved. That should be happening within the next week or two after spring break. And then we'll roll into our last board dialogue of this school year, which will be May 30th, which is a Tuesday. And the topic for that has yet to be determined. So as I encourage in any meeting that I have an opportunity to speak on this, please, if the community has subject matter that they would like to see as a part of these discussions, email me directly. We'll pull that together and the committee will have some discussion around it, bring it before the board if needs be, and we'll put it out there so that we can have a conversation. But it is really wonderful to know that we can actually agree to disagree, we can have strong opinions, and we can still work through them and be very civil in the process. It's just a wonderful exchange across the board, and I'm very appreciative of the community and again of everyone here. So thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Smith, go ahead, and then I'll respond.
Good and welfare. As we all know, March is reading month, and I have been reading. I've had the opportunity to share some stories with Dr. Coffin and Dr. Delgado with the littles over at the preschool or the early childhood. Our babies have no filters, but they are the sweetest things ever. I love the littles. I wish I could be with them every day. So I've had the opportunity, like I stated, the first of the month, I was at one of the Incredibles at Lanigan Elementary. I have been a Paw Patrol over at Beachview. Sorry for interrupting Dr. Delgado's meeting the other day, but I lost some very important ink pens and expensive ink pens, so sorry for the disruption. But I was a puppy from Paw Patrol. I have been Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz over at Forest Elementary. Yesterday was Harry Potter over at Hillside. So look forward to going to more schools, dressing in as thing one, possibly wearing, and I was the witch from Sleeping Beauty over at one of the schools. So I have, the finale will be the Tin Man. I'm not telling what school I will be at, so just look forward to seeing the pictures. The students are enjoying it. They have a lot of conversation around it. They asked when Dr. Delgado comes in, why doesn't he wear costumes? I said, you asked Dr. Delgado. So that's up to Dr. Delgado to wear the costumes. So they said, well, can you let him borrow some of yours? I said, I don't think he can fit mine, but I will talk to him about getting him some costumes. So that's my good and welfare, and have a safe and healthy break.
It sounds like you're having a delightful time.
Yeah, better than some other things, I can say, with these littles.
That is wonderful. Ms. Heinrich?
Yeah, I have two things. I tuned into a MASB Members Matter Zoom meeting today. It was a lunchtime meeting. Just to let our community know about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship Program. A lot of students are eligible for that, you can get information at miachievement.org or michigan.gov/MIStudentAid. And then just fellow board members, the MASB news from the Capitol that comes out, it's been going to people's spam folders. And so I check my spam folder and that's where it's been going. And so you have to, so if you look in your spam folder and then you just mark it not as spam, then you'll start getting that information. So there's a lot of information coming from MASB notes from the Capitol. March is Reading Month. I only read at 2 schools, but I love children's literature. I love reading. I love kids. I went to Forest Elementary. I was invited as a mystery reader for a kindergarten, and it happened to be my grandson's kindergarten class, and so that was a bonus. So he guessed who it was. I didn't tell him I was coming. And today I went over to Lanigan for the 2nd grade and read in a 2nd grade class, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. And I baked cookies for the children. So they're always a hit, and they call them celebrity readers at Lanigan. So I felt like a celebrity because I was a grandmother. And also I want to compliment the district on the One Book, One District, One School, because I've been reading the book and I talked to my grandkids about it. I mean, I pulled the book out today over at Lanigan and I started off our conversation and it was just so much fun. So, I mean, I have a cool name. I'm a celebrity.
You're it.
Cookies, I'm really a hit. So thank you for this opportunity.
That's wonderful. And then didn't you have the kids, you gave them a mouse-sized piece of paper?
Oh, yeah.
And let them draw a little picture, some of which you shared with us?
Of their mouse, or pretend they're a mouse and drew me a mouse I put on my refrigerator. So they were so cute. And the teacher is, and the teacher had a student teacher also, which is really nice. And just to see, to get into the classroom and just see the teacher really, joy of teaching and enjoying the students. And the students were just so polite and so well behaved, and they were just cute.
That's lovely.
Exponentially cute.
Yeah, I have a few things as well. I did want to just mention the community engagement meeting that we had. I think it was on the 13th. All of us were in attendance for both of them, I think. And I really appreciate those dialogues. I think that is a great opportunity for us to engage with the public. I would really encourage more folks to engage in those conversations because we don't really have an opportunity to engage with the public as often as we would like. And that's what those community engagement forums are for. Unfortunately, board meetings are not the forum for two-way communication. I just wanted to make sure that folks understood that board meetings are for the purpose of conducting board business, and they are held in public for transparency purposes. They are not public meetings. They are meetings held in public. They are for the purpose of conducting board business. So I know that people don't like the fact that we don't engage with the public during public comment, but that is not what public comment is for. Public comment is for us to listen, not to engage in a two-way dialogue. That is, again, not what a board meeting is for. It is for us to take action. It is for us to have discussion. It is a board meeting. But I thoroughly appreciate the community engagement forums. Those are a great opportunity for us to hear from the public. So thank you for doing those.
Thank you.
I was also able to read to a kindergarten, 1st grade, 3rd grade, and 5th grade class. I absolutely love it. This was another great opportunity, another great march. A few marches ago, I was mistaken for Kamala Harris. So I was a celebrity back then, but not so much this time. I think they told the students something about president, and they did the same thing this year too. I'm president of an organization, not of the board, but at that time I was president of the board, and I think they just heard president and thought, oh, vice president. And there were students then who asked for autographs, and I kept telling them, I'm not Kamala Harris. Maybe it was my hair that day too, but it's very nice to feel like a celebrity. And they were so well behaved this time too, really engaged. I think I read 3 or 4 books And they just were really thoroughly amused. I'm a little animated as well, so that probably helps. I missed the Snap Comedy Club night. I had a family matter, but I was able to support financially. I hope that they do something like that again. The Music Boosters, I wanted to express huge appreciation, first of all, from the Music Boosters overall. I have 2 music kids. One of them plays the sax, but my youngest one, this is the first time I've been engaged with the Music Boosters in general. And these are a hard-working group of people. In particular, the can and bottle drive, which is something I co-chaired this year for the first time, was way more than I expected in terms of work. That is a lot. But thank you to all of the community members who saw the signs in their neighborhoods to put your cans in the, on the porch, despite the fact that the Friday before the can bottle drive, we had a snow day. We were very concerned about turnout, but we were able to, and we're still counting almost $4,000. So that's amazing.
That is amazing.
Amazing. Thank you especially to Dr. Delgado, who allowed me to come pick up like several hundred cans from his house. Thank you to Mr. Olson, who won our challenge. By himself, his family brought in 4,100 cans alone. So he was certainly the winner of our challenge and appreciate that he might start collecting again this year. Everybody collect starting today or next year, please. But seriously, great event, and I hope that folks will continue to support that effort. Really great choir performance. I love the choir. I love all of the music performances, but particularly the choir. And I appreciate the choir department, in particular Peggy Babcock and Matthew Greenberg, who are providing an opera opportunity to some of our choir students, which I think is awesome. So lots of great things happening, lots of things that we need to work on, of course, but there are a lot of more good than I think improvement opportunities. So thank you.
Wonderful. Along the lines of the community dialogues and our attempts as a board to increase opportunities for civil discourse and improve our skills both as a board and as a community in our ability to engage in civil discourse, even around difficult topics. I was walking through downtown Farmington this past Sunday, and I overheard 2 women as they walked by complaining about the lack of civil discourse in the world today. And so I stopped them and I invited them to our next community dialogue, and they're coming. Like, civil discourse, we're doing something about that here in Farmington Public Schools. And so I happen to have 2 of my own students with me who are studying ancient Greek foods, and they and their parents came over and I taught them how to make some Greek foods because my in-laws are from this tiny village on the island of Crete. So even though I'm Jewish, I know these traditional Greek recipes. So I'm with these two young ladies, and I'm like, wait a minute, stay right there. And they're watching me go over and do this. Like, you know, it's what you do as an involved community member, right? We've got good things going on. We're working toward improving and increasing our ability to engage in civil discourse. And so here were some women complaining about it. Here we go. Here's the solution. Come join us in these dialogues. So anyway, it was just very uplifting to see that we and those who attend these community dialogues, even though some of the conversation is heated, we are able to honor our commitments to our agreements, and we're gaining skill in being able to engage in civil discourse. So it's our way of making the world a better place. So I thank all of you for investing the time to participate. And with that, I believe we are all finished. So this meeting is now adjourned. Good evening.